3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today. We are rock and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Kevin Carter is going to join us in studio 60 minutes from now. Hot Take Hickey will be joining us at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time. And the reason why I'm laughing is I did not fully read the rundown before the show. And each and every week, there is a funny saying next to Hickey's name. And this time it's Ryan Hickey, creepy shower video guy. Because Hickey took a video of him in the shower. He does this like shower no cap video and he gives takes. And I guess he brought it back. And the other day, maybe they should have clogged the drain while the water was running because the take he was giving was Nick Saban should be the next head coach of the Jets. I could guarantee you this, that Nick Saban will not be coaching the Jets this upcoming season. If Nick Saban is coaching the Jets this upcoming season, I may get a tattoo of him and Miss Terry on my butt. All right? Like, that's how confident I am that Nick Saban will not be coaching the New York Jets. Wouldn't that be something, Stu? Right? If we get this alert, Woody Johnson is able to reel in the big fish of Nick Saban. And then you have an awful announcing headline. Talk show host said he will get a tattoo of Nick Saban and Miss Terry on his ass if that ends up happening. I don't think that's illegally binding when I say something like that, but who knows? It's not going to happen either way. So last night, I went to a really good restaurant. I had a great piece of grilled salmon. I had some Caesar salad, and I also had some polenta fries, which were absolutely to die for. And I'm walking out of the restaurant, and I check my phone, and I have about 30 text messages. Did you see what happened? So I'm thinking to myself, like, did someone die? And then I went on Twitter, opened up my account on X, and I see this bombshell article from The Athletic. And Diana Rossini and Zach Rosenblatt are on the reporting. And basically, this is without Joe Douglas talking on the record. When Joe Douglas is fired officially yesterday, and then within, or clearly less than 24 hours, there's already an article that's ready to go. Well, two things happened. One, Joe Douglas knew he was getting fired, and he started talking to Diana Rossini and Zach before, or the moment he got fired, he quickly ran to Diana and Zach and started spewing everything that's anti-Woody Johnson. I'm not saying he's wrong, but it's obvious who is the leak here, it's not even sources. Who is the source here? This is the Joe Douglas account of what did transpire. And for people that don't have an Athletic account, or for people that haven't read the full story, I'll give you like the basic talking points here. Joe Douglas basically lost all of his power last year. Woody Johnson was vetoing trades. He was trying to get Jerry Jeudy for Alan Lazard in a late-round draft pick, and Woody Johnson said no. There were players he wanted to re-sign. Woody Johnson said no. There were free agents that Woody Johnson pushed upon this regime. So that's basically some of the things that were in this article. But the most explosive thing, and I think the juiciest thing, is after the Denver Broncos defeated the Jets 10-9. And I remember that game. That was a low point for the New York Jets. It was just a sloppy game. It was raining in the sponsor jersey. I thought Aaron Rodgers' career was over in that game. I thought his career has been over many times this season, but he got hurt in that game, and I thought that was it for Aaron Rodgers. Now, he ended up staying in the game, and we know they missed the kick at the end, and they didn't win. They lose 10-9. So in this article, after, like, the few days afterwards when the team meets, right, you have Woody Johnson meeting with Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh. I think Adam Gase was, not Adam Gase, Nathaniel Hackett. Very similar, if we're going to be honest. It's a good slip of the tongue. Jeff Ulbrich, who's the defense, a bunch of people, right, on the Jets coaching staff and the Jets brass meeting together with Woody Johnson. And I guess in this meeting, Woody Johnson suggested that they bench Aaron Rodgers for Tyrod Taylor. Now, it wasn't clear in the story, but I have this question. What was the tone in the way that Woody Johnson said it? Because if Woody Johnson walks into that meeting, they're talking and they're saying, hey, Aaron got banged up. Do we have to go to Tyrod Taylor? Should we go to Tyrod Taylor and bench Aaron and get him healthy? I think that's different than Woody Johnson, how most of us think this did go down, walking in and saying, guys, this guy Aaron Rodgers is a bum now. Like, this guy Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. He's playing on one leg. He's hurt again. We need to bench him and go to Tyrod Taylor. If it was the first part of that sentence, okay, I'm fine with it. He's just asking a question. But if it's the last part and he's demanding to go to Tyrod Taylor over Aaron Rodgers, like, I don't care how bad Aaron Rodgers playing up until that point, you're 2-2. You're 2-2 for crying out loud. I would much rather have, even at this decrepit state of Aaron Rodgers' career, 70 to 60% healthy Aaron Rodgers than Tyrod Taylor. And also, the Jets had this plan, and the Jets never stick to the plan. That's why they're a bunch of buffoons. But the Jets had this plan where they thought their roster was so good that all they needed was a quarterback. And unfortunately, Rodgers had the Achilles injury last year. So you finally get Rodgers back, and you were going to bench him after 4 freaking games? That's what you were going to do? So ever since this article came out, the takes that were given yesterday of how much of a bleep show the Jets were are still present. If anything, they got louder. However, I do think we now have a shift. And I even have a shift. I'm not going to totally say that Aaron Rodgers is now in the right. Okay? I think Aaron Rodgers had a big hand in this entire process. But people like me have thought that Aaron Rodgers had been making every single call in the organization. Well, the one guy Aaron Rodgers can't usurp, because he was more important than Joe Douglas. He was more important than Robert Saleh. But the guy that is the most important in that organization in terms of making decisions is Woody Johnson. Even though we think Rodgers may have the most clout, Woody Johnson at the end of the day is an owner, and he's not an owner that sits on his hands and is silent in the corner. He is an owner who thinks he's a football guy, and he's a meddling owner that believes he knows what it takes to win and that he's a genius and that he needs to have a hand on a lot of these matters, which is one of the worst owners you could have. The owner I want is an owner that wants to spend money. I want an owner that asks questions, but lets his football people make football decisions. And when you have football people that aren't making football decisions and the owner is making the football decisions, that's a very toxic environment. But I will even say, and I can't, this microphone's on, testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. I can't believe I say this. When I saw the article last night, and it's a drastic shift from yesterday, I actually had some sympathy for Aaron Rodgers. There was a little bit of sympathy that I will display towards Aaron Rodgers. And here's why. Woody Johnson is the only reason why. And this is just set up for failure. Now, it doesn't excuse Rodgers' play. It doesn't excuse, things that have happened in New York, and Aaron still has some blood on his hands. But if an owner is going to suggest to bench the quarterback after 4 weeks and your alternative is nothing special, that makes no sense to me. It doesn't. And it kind of lines up with the timeline that, I don't think now that this was Aaron who got Robert Saleh fired, because think about it, they then lost to the Vikings. And if that's true that Aaron Rodgers, the owner wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers, then you lose the next week where Rodgers throws a pick late. Well, I gave you the opportunity to bench him. I told you, right? I'm Woody Johnson. I'm the genius. I told you to bench Aaron Rodgers. You didn't, and look what happened to your great quarterback. Your great quarterback threw a pick at the end of the game and embarrassed me in front of all my friends in England. And then he doesn't even get to see the Buffalo Bills game. So yesterday I walked into the show and I said, okay, Joe Douglas is gone, Robert Saleh is gone, but I think Aaron should retire. However, I think Aaron will be back. And I thought the relationship between Aaron and Woody was in a good spot. And there's 2 sides to every story. I guess in this case, there's 3 sides to every story. Because we want to hear, you got the Joe Douglas story yesterday. Who cares about Saleh's story at this point? But in terms of moving forward, you got the Joe Douglas story out there. Now we need to know the Woody Johnson story. And now we also need to know the Aaron Rodgers story. And that, to me, is the most fascinating part here, is the Aaron Rodgers story. Because if Joe Douglas is kind of fabricating some of this, which I don't believe he is, it's going to be swayed heavily towards making him look good and making him look like a sympathetic figure, which I understand. The guy was around for 6 years, only had 7 wins as the most in an individual season. So let's not act like Joe Douglas completely got screwed over. He got screwed over at the end. But for Aaron, it's where is your relationship with Woody? And can you coexist with Woody through this next head coaching and GM hire to come play one more year? With all likelihood, Woody leaving some point in January or February to rejoin the Trump administration, because last time he was an ambassador to England under the Trump administration, if Woody is going to be offered a position and if Woody is going to go down that road again. So if that relationship is where you could mend the fences, okay, I guess there's a chance that Aaron Rodgers comes back. But in the moment yesterday, when I'm reading that article, and I was someone who was a big-time believer that Aaron was going to be back with the Jets next year, you read that article when the owner wanted you benched in week 4, well, then why the heck would he bring you back after this year? I know he's under contract, but why would he bring you back? Especially when this is blown up in the Jets' faces big time, and now everything is out there that Woody doesn't like the quarterback. And I don't know if, I guess Rodgers not appearing on McAfee this week because it's usually on Tuesdays. I don't think we saw anything last week. I don't know if they're going to get him on this week, and the Jets are off anyway. But the next time Aaron speaks, whether it's to reporters or whether it's to McAfee, I want his side of it. And you know what, Aaron Rodgers? Don't be soft, okay? I know you got to be a professional, but you are someone, right, Aaron Rodgers, that loves to question things and loves to give your opinion and loves to be a deep thinker. With you being on a bye week and probably doing no media this week, you have a lot of time to sit in that darkness cave. You have a lot of time to do ayahuasca. You have a lot of time to think about how you're going to respond. And we will get a good sense, even if Aaron says a lot or doesn't, but just based off the way that he looks and the way he presents himself, because Aaron Rodgers, his body language is something, on how fed up he actually is and what is true and what is false from that article. And thank God Aaron's not playing in some irrelevant town. He's dealing with the big, bad New York media. And that's going to be fun. That's going to be entertaining. But I do think now that Aaron's going somewhere else. I think the options now, right? It's tough for me to envision that Aaron's going to be back with the Jets next year after reading this article. So is Aaron going to retire? Hey, Aaron, you should retire. Or is he going to go somewhere else? That's the big question moving forward. But in terms of Woody Johnson, there are 4 options here for Woody Johnson moving forward. And Stu, listen to these 4 options and you tell me what's the most likely out of the 4. Option 1, Woody Johnson hires a new GM and a new coach and then joins the Trump administration and Christopher Johnson, his brother, runs the team. That's option 1. Option 2, Woody hires a new GM and head coach, stays in the U.S., and continues to have his hands all over the franchise. Option 3, Woody stays in the U.S., hires a new GM and head coach, and gets the bleep out of the way. Or option 4, and I think this one is the most entertaining one. Woody stays in the U.S., hires a new coach, and then says, hey, I'm Jerry Jones, I'll be the GM, all by myself. What do you think is the most likely out of all these?
I like 4. I think that's, like you said, the juiciest one. I think the most likely is that he hires the new coach and GM and stays and still has his kind of hands in the cookie jar, but not, they do have a GM, but he's still the ones that's kind of, making some decisions.
I think option 1 is the most likely option, where with how close he is with the Trump administration, he'll hire the new GM and head coach, right? Maybe stick around a little bit through the draft in April and come back and forth. I don't know when exactly. I know Trump gets inaugurated coming up in January, I think it is. So I don't know how quickly he would have to leave, but I'm sure you go back and forth if you're Woody Johnson and you set up with your GM, your head coach, and also your quarterback that you pick, and then you let your brother run the team. However, if I'm talking about what I want to see happen, because I want to see Woody Johnson fail, all right? I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I want to see him stay in the U.S. I want to see him hire a coach, and I want to see Woody Johnson run the team. Not even hire a GM. And I know Jets fans will hear that and be like, no, you idiot, you moron, you dope. I understand that's the worst thing to happen for the Jets. But Woody Johnson thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Woody Johnson thinks he's a football guy. So let's see what your record is, Woody Johnson. Let's have you be the GM. And then guess what? When you fail, when you're horrible, and when you suck at it, then you shut up, you own the team, and then you allow your future GM and head coach to actually make the decisions. And yes, You still run the organization. I get it. You're still the owner. You still have all the dollars that, going into your bank account, billions after billions after billions. But then you would get maybe humbled. Then you would get embarrassed. And maybe that would open up a path for you to just kind of say, the way I've been doing this now, decade after decade, just doesn't work. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I would actually like to see it happen, because then it would just emasculate and just make Woody Johnson just such a punchline to every joke. Because if he's trying to call every shot, like how Jerry Jones does it with the Cowboys, oh boy. You thought the Jets have been a circus before. Then they would really, really become a circus. They would add a lot more clowns to that circus. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. So, if Aaron Rodgers is going to play next year, and let's just say Aaron Rodgers is not playing for the Jets, Jets, where could he go next? I have 2 suggestions. We'll get to more than just 2. But I have the 2 destinations that I think will annoy 2 people. Okay? That's all I'll say. We'll get to that on the other side. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks could be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields, Guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So I am now of the belief. It's funny. This time yesterday, I was of the belief that Aaron Rodgers was going to be back with the New York Jets next season. Little did I know when I said that I was in the minority. But once this article did drop from The Athletic that Woody Johnson was trying to get Aaron Rodgers benched back in week 4, yeah, it's tough for me to then see, with all the toothpaste being out of the tube, that they're going to be able to put the toothpaste back in the tube and then run it back with the new GM, a new head coach, and still have Aaron Rodgers under center for this team next year. So, Stu, I hate to do this to you. It really does pain me. But I was thinking about where could Aaron Rodgers maybe go to. And I thought a few years ago the Raiders should have been all in on him, because they also had Davante Adams. And now they don't have Davante Adams, which, by the way, before I suggest and make the case for Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders, how about Davante Adams in all this? Like, has there been a guy that has played his hand worse than Davante Adams? You were in Green Bay, and you were annoyed that you weren't getting the proper attention from the general manager because they were all focused on trying to figure out this Aaron Rodgers situation. Then you actually left more money on the table because you wanted to go back closer to home. You wanted to go play with your college quarterback at Derek Carr. You get to the Raiders. They get rid of Derek Carr instantly. And then you go, you know what? I got to get traded. And even though there was a very smart talk show host that sat here and said, Davante, don't go to the Jets. You know, maybe you should go to the Commanders and team up with Jaden Daniels. Maybe you should go to the Ravens and team up with Lamar Jackson. There was a lot of different destinations that erudite talk show host, Zach Gelb, was saying for Davante Adams. And here is Davante Adams now in this bleep show where the Jets ship was already sinking. And, you know, like sometimes a ship is sinking, Stu, and you go, I'm going to run off the ship, or I'm already on the land. It stinks that the ship is sinking and people are going to die, but I'm not going to go be the hero and try to jump on a sinking ship. And in all likelihood, when you jump on a sinking ship, guess what? You're going to sink. You know, rare instances when you jump on the sinking ship and then you find a way to prevent it from sinking and it goes smooth sailing. And now Davante Adams, he's got to request a trade. Like, he's got to, if Rodgers not going to be there, he's turning out to, he's like Will Smith in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When they robbed the house and all that's left is the carpeting and all the furniture is gone and he's all by himself. That's Davante Adams. Because Rodgers, he's got his bags packed and they're ready to go. And he's leaving. And he's getting off this jet plane right now. That's what's happening. But the first team I thought of yesterday, even though I've been a big advocate to try to save your football life, Stu, and I just want to see Stu, during our time working together, have a football team that actually gives him a season where they can win and actually make him happy. You know, seeing sad Stu is not fun when Stu walks in here each and every day miserable and just dejected and down in the dumps and looking like he hates life because his football team blows. All right? I don't like to see that. I like to uplift the people I work with. I like to try to present a situation where the people I work with can actually be happy. All right, not as happy as me, but happy enough. And I wanted to see Stu be a little happy. So I've been suggesting Shedeur Sanders to you. And I do think Shedeur Sanders will be on the Raiders. But what happens if, I don't know, the Raiders go on a win streak at the end of the year, win a few games that they're not supposed to win, and it's like a similar situation like last year where they play themselves out of getting that quarterback. Because the Raiders, ever since they let Derek Carr walk out of the building, which, by the way, it's the right move to get rid of Derek Carr. Should I go here? Zach, should I go here? Should I go here? All right, I'll go there. There's a certain longtime NFL scribe who, for some reason, he likes to feud with this company. He likes me, but he doesn't like some people down the hall. His name rhymes with Mary Ayers, if you need to figure out who that writer is. And a few weeks ago, months ago, I don't even remember. It was early in the season. When the Saints were hot, Stu. Remember when the Saints were hot?
Yes, who could forget that great start to the season they had?
And everyone, Derek Carr, disrespected. I'm like, everyone knows Derek Carr is not a franchise quarterback, right? Like, at best, he's the 14th or 15th best quarterback in the league. And I guess I was defending you, Stu. You know, even though you weren't in the conversation. But let's just say I saw this reporter whose name rhymes with Harry Fires. And I saw this reporter say, how dumb are the Raiders to let Derek Carr walk and get rid of him? And I just said, well, the Raiders' plan after that was stupid. They didn't do a good job in replacing him, but the genesis of their idea to replace Derek Carr was the right idea. And let's just say that reporter doesn't do a great job when anybody disagrees with him, I'm starting to learn. And he's a little sensitive with all the way that goes down. And let's just say that reporter played the line of, oh, well, what do you know? I covered the NFL for 40-something years. All right, you covered the NFL for 40-something years. Doesn't mean that you can't be wrong. Right? Even Bill Belichick has some blemishes on the resume. So when I look at Derek Carr, that has always been a guy that has never been able to have sustained success in the NFL that makes you elicit the response of he's a franchise quarterback. But Stu, the Raiders' plan after that, they needed to go get Brady. They needed to go get Rodgers. They didn't get either. And then bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo was a stupid move. And this year, they wanted to draft a quarterback, right? They wanted Jaden Daniels, Antonio Pierce's connection, but they weren't bad enough. And they couldn't find a way to move up in the draft. Like the Giants were picking earlier than the Raiders. If the Giants couldn't move up and have the Patriots fall back slightly, the Raiders never had a chance at getting their quarterback unless if they were going to be able to get Michael Penix, who went earlier than expected, or Bo Nix, who went earlier than expected, and J.J. McCarthy, who was projected to be a top 10 pick, and the Vikings went up and got him. So you saw 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12, and what the Raiders were picking 13th, Stu? Right? At 13th or 14th?
Yes, I believe 13th was the pick.
So all the quarterbacks went. So then this year, you need to have a top 5 pick. Because if you don't have an opportunity to get one of the 2 highest quarterbacks in the draft, then it's like, what are you doing? So let's say if the Raiders unexpectedly win some games down the stretch, Stu, which is like the worst thing to happen because then it's weird. When you want your team to be really bad, Stu, and you want them to tank, when they win, it's also tough to not feel happy because you haven't seen a win in a while, and we all want to win at the end of the day. But it would be a bad thing for your organization because there's a role where they're looking for another stopgap guy, and the Raiders have some pieces, right? Not great. Like Brock Bowers is a great piece. But outside of that, there's not many untouchables on that offensive side of the ball. So I could actually see, and it's slim pickings here. This is why I think Rodgers should retire either way. But if the Jets say, hey, we're moving on from you, where do you want to go? Or maybe we'll just outright release you. How much of a market is there going to be? And I look at it, the Raiders could be a team if they miss out on drafting a quarterback where you get Rodgers, except you're getting Rodgers 2 years after when you should have got Aaron Rodgers. And I would, if I'm used to, I'm not elated if they go sign Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year deal this offseason.
I'm not elated, but kind of like what you said. They do have the Jaguars and Saints remaining on their schedule, so I would not be surprised if they win one or both of those games. And if they do that, then maybe they're picking, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then maybe it's Carson Beck or Jalen Milroe. Maybe a guy you don't want to start right away, so then you bring in Rodgers for that 1 year.
But is Rodgers going to play nicey nice in that situation?
I would say
I guess he's
probably
running
not.
out of chances, too, or opportunities, so maybe he has to.
He might not have much of a choice, honestly.
Well, look at these other potential destinations that have been put down on this list in front of me. The Raiders, the Titans, the 49ers, the Giants, and the Cowboys. And I saw Maggie Gray this morning. I think it was Maggie. She was suggesting the Dolphins. They just gave Tua a new deal. So it's not going to be the Dolphins. The Cowboys just gave Dak a new deal. It's not going to be Dak. I know we like to throw out these teams, but you got to look at who their quarterbacks are now. Could you imagine if he stays in New York and he goes to the Giants? Shane and Daboll can't be the GM and the coach. Yeah, there would be no point to bring in Aaron Rodgers for a year if you're the New York Football Giants. And the 49ers, I understand why people throw out the 49ers, Stu, because they had Brock Purdy there when they tried to go get Brady, right? And that was well documented. And even when Jimmy G was there and they gave him the big deal, Brady was interested in going there, and the Niners weren't interested in Tom Brady. And I know that there's a chance that the Niners are going to miss out on the postseason this year, but I still think you got to run it back with Brock. I just don't think that Aaron Rodgers, he's not what Brady was in his 40s. Aaron Rodgers right now is like an type of quarterback. And Tennessee's an interesting one because clearly the coach is fed up with Will Levis, but sometimes when you're fed up with someone and you give tough coaching, it's because you believe in them. So maybe that's where a lot of it is and why there's frustration there. But I look at the Raiders, and then I also look at? We know Shane Steichen is not a big fan of Anthony Richardson. And the timing of this one may not be in the proper place because Anthony Richardson just won, but it was up against the Jets. And I don't know how, if you're the Colts, you watch that and you say, oh, you want to go get Aaron Rodgers. But the Colts are another stupid organization, if we're just being honest. So the options out there, it's really slim pickings if Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets next year. And that's why the first two I thought of were the Raiders and the Colts. And the more and more you go through that, if you're Aaron Rodgers, why are you playing for the Raiders or the Colts next year? He should just retire. If your options are go back with the Jets and play for an owner who hates your guts right now, or you go and you play for the Colts or the Raiders, I'm just saying, hey, turn out the lights, the party's over. Time to wrap it up. Nice career, Hall of Fame career, first ballot Hall of Famer, top 10 quarterback of all time. Don't do this to yourself. Don't. And you have other interests too. No, we don't laugh at some of those other interests, but at least go enjoy the rest of your life. Don't go run back next year at 41 with the Jets, the Raiders, or the Colts. Bad, bad, bad. That's just a miserable way to go out of this league. All right, we'll take a timeout. We come on back. I was very close to nailing the college football playoff rankings again. I just needed one swap, and I would have got every single thing right on the bracket. We'll react to the latest college football playoff rankings when we come on back on the Zach Gelb Show. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's brought to you by Progressive, who's proud to support veterans and small businesses with their annual Keys to Progress vehicle giveaway program, helping our heroes drive their lives forward. Learn more at keystoprogress.com. 25 former greats are a step closer to Canton. The semifinalists of this year's class were announced, among them Terrell Suggs, receivers Hines Ward and Reggie Wayne, as well as Charles Woodson. The NBA's last unbeaten team fell last night, but the Cavaliers don't have much time to dwell on their first loss, as they're right back in action tonight hosting the 4-15 Pelicans. In the West, the Thunder are off to another big start despite big injuries. At 11-4, they host the Blazers tonight, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander said their big start rooted in their defense.
The teams that win because they're really good defensively. That's what we want to do. We want to win. So if we want to win, we better sustain it for 82 games and then some.
The Warriors are 10-3 and will host the Hawks. Third-ranked Gonzaga takes on Long Beach State tonight. The Cy Young Awards will be handed out, and Chris Sale led the majors with 18 wins. The Braves starter is one finalist in the National League. The Phils' Zach Wheeler and the Pirates Rookie of the Year, Paul Skeens, are the others. The Tigers' Tarek Skubal among the American League finalists, along with the Royal Seth Lugo and the Guardians' Emmanuel Clase. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. It's time to ask the pros. For you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet the question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the program. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Alrighty, so the college football playoff rankings came out last night. I'll do it the confusing way first. I'll just tell you the order of the teams. I'll just start at 20, and we'll go to 1. 20, how do you say this program's name again, Stu?
Tulane.
Tulane?
Tulane.
Tulane in at 20. 19, Army. 18, the Gamecocks of South Carolina. That cock is rising for the Gamecocks. In at 17, I think I could say that on the radio, right? Well, I guess I just did. Clemson, Colorado 16, Texas A&M 15, BYU 14, SMU 13, Boise State 12, Tennessee 11, Georgia 10, Ole Miss 9, Miami 8, Alabama 7, Notre Dame 6, Indiana 5, Penn State 4, Texas 3, Ohio State 2, and Oregon in at number 1. So, for the actual bracket, because that's what I care about, if you listened to this program yesterday, I gave you everything right but one thing. My bracket yesterday was Oregon, Texas, Miami, BYU receiving byes. I had Notre Dame up against Alabama in the 8-9, Ohio State up against Boise State in the 5-12. I also had Indiana 7, Ole Miss 10, and Penn State 6, Georgia 11. The thing I was wrong about, and even though the AP poll had Boise State in front of BYU, I thought the committee was basically going to look at Boise State and be like, oh, they're the little guy. They're not in the Big 12. They're not in the SEC. They're not in the ACC. They're not in the Big 10. And we're still going to put the little guy out there and put them in at 12. Instead, they said, up BYU in the bracket, you're 12. And Boise State jumps up to 4 because how this works for people that do not know, which is actually more people than I thought it was going to be, the 5 highest ranked conference champions get an automatic spot. The 4 highest ranked conference champions, they get a bye, seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they don't have to play in the first round. So as of yesterday, here were the rankings in terms of just a bracket. Because I don't know about you, Stu. They released the top 25, and then they show you the bracket. I'm not going to sit here and go bonkers. Oh, well, this school was 14, and this school was 13, and they're getting screwed, blah, blah, blah. Like, I understand. It doesn't make sense with how Miami didn't really fall greatly after losing a game, how then BYU plummets, and they fall to the worst seed that you could get, and they fall technically out of the top 12, but since they'd be the conference champ, they would get the 12th seed in there. So I can understand why people are freaking out, but I just care about the bracket. And when we're still a few weeks away from the final bracket coming out on December 8th, the order really doesn't matter to me. It's up until this point, did you just get the 12 teams right? And I don't think these will be the final 12 teams, but yesterday, could you have a point of contention or two in terms of, which team belongs there? Sure, everyone could have a gripe. But I don't know about you, Stu. I thought yesterday they got the right 12 teams, and the only surprise I had, because I just didn't think the committee would do this, and thankfully they did, and I'm happy for all of our listeners on KTIK in Boise, that they gave Boise their respect for now, and there is a legitimate path that Boise can actually get one of these top 4 seeds in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, too. I didn't know what they would do. I thought they had a chance to rank Boise or, give them that fourth seed in that automatic bye, but...
Is it going to hold, though?
Right. Like,
For example, if BYU wins the Big 12, or if Colorado with Coach... Oh, could you imagine? Coach Prime makes the playoff, and the committee doesn't give him that 4th seed? Can you imagine? Oh... That would be the perfect motivation for his program. He would say, they don't even give us respect when we prove all the haters wrong and they're still non-believers. They put us at 12 Hey, put Boise State in front of. Oh, can you imagine that's the way that it goes down?
And they have to go to Ohio State or someone similar in that first game. He would not be too happy about that, I don't think. But you're right. He would use it as motivation, I think.
Do you think it's going to stick, though? If Boise wins the conference and whoever wins the Big 12, do you ultimately believe that the core 4 conferences, one of them will not get a bye?
I think it'll stay. I think Boise will stay 4.
I still have trust issues.
Me too. I'm not 100% confident on it, but if I had to be right, I'd say Boise stays 4.
So I kind of like the way they did this last night. Oregon 1. You got Texas 2, just on the bracket. Miami 3. Boise 4. 5-12 matchup, Ohio State, BYU. If that game was tomorrow, I'd pick Ohio State. You have Notre Dame, Alabama in an 8-9. You have Penn State 6, Georgia 11. And you got Indiana 7, Ole Miss 10. Now, I did see something because I guess someone had predicted odds for some of those games. Number 11, Georgia at Penn State. Number 11, Georgia at Penn State, which is currently the 6-11. And, I do think some of these teams will move up. I don't know how much of it. Because Indiana's, for example, if they lose this weekend to Ohio State, I still think they'll make the playoff if they don't lose another game. But they will fall, and that will allow one of these SE teams to rise up. Like yesterday I said, I do think in this latest bracket that Alabama needs to be in front of Ole Miss. Ole Miss needs to be in front of Georgia. And you have those teams going. I got that right, 9, 10, and 11 on the bracket. But once Indiana falls, it's like, okay, so Indiana right now would be the 7. So Notre Dame would probably jump up to 8. And then it's like, how do any of those, one of those SEC schools maybe jump in front of Notre Dame? It's just something to think about. Because the SEC, I still think it's the best conference that is around. But if I had to give you these early lines right now, Stu, for the first round matchup, Georgia at Penn State, what do you think the line would be? Who do you think the favorite would be and by how many points?
I think it'd be Georgia, I think by 2 points.
Pretty close. Georgia by a point. And let me tell you, if Georgia is a point favorite at Happy Valley against Penn State, up against James Franklin, who's allergic to a big game, I may place my largest wager ever on Georgia laying a point. I responsibly, I would place a Zach Gelb max wager on Georgia laying a point up against Penn State. Ole Miss at Indiana. Who do you think the favorite is, and by how much?
Ole Miss. See, I don't think Indiana's going to get the respect that they deserve. I think it'd be 4 poinst.
3.5. Look at Stu. Maybe you leave here, you go take a job in Vegas. Probably pay you better. 3.5. Would you lay it? 3.5?
Yes, I would.
The half point concerns me. But
yeah.
And Indiana has a really good offense. Ole Miss has a really good defense. I would probably lay the 3.5. Alabama at Notre Dame. What do you think it is?
I think it's Alabama. I'd say Alabama by 2.5.
Alabama by a point. And I would
definitely.
How do you not parlay all the favorites right there? So for people, and I understand you got to prove it on the field. And Georgia, I'm not one of these honks that are like, oh, Georgia needs to be ranked higher. Yeah, Georgia's still a team you're not going to want to face. But there has to be something done on the field, too. And Georgia lost to Ole Miss and lost to Alabama. So the games have to matter in some regard. But yeah, the 11, 10, and 9 seeds, right, I would be betting on, it's weird that the underdogs are the favorites, if that makes any sense, because they're the lower seed. But they're then considered the favorites. Of course, I would bet Georgia -1 at Penn State. Ole Miss laying 3.5 at Indiana. Alabama laying 1 at Notre Dame. Of course, I would do that. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Let's get Mike talking about his Buckeyes. Mikey, what's up?
My man, the myth, the legend himself. Appreciate you taking my call, man. Big game this weekend. Man, Indiana, what a cool story, dude. It's awesome for college football. It's good for our conference. But I had a question today, man. I've seen and heard around ESPN, CBS that they're saying the Big Ten did it right, and there's not a lot of scheduled, highly ranked matchups within the conference, give or take a couple here and there. I kind of tend to disagree. I think I'm old school, man. I want to play. I'd rather play than have a bye.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather play tougher opponents earlier throughout the season. It gets you ready for the environment. It gets you ready for that tough test. In my honest opinion, that is what maybe not was the difference, because we got bad at the national championships. When we faced Florida and LSU back to back, we got out toughed. Well, the talent, I still believe, was at least equal, if not in our favor. So why did we get, messed up so bad? It's because all year long we didn't play a tough opponent. I'm with the SEC this year. I think I would not. I don't want to play Bama. I don't want to play Texas. I don't want to play Georgia.
They're dangerous.
It's crazy. And again, the playoff, man, it's bringing it all together. Now we get all this madness, all this craziness, all these what ifs.
So your question is, do you think the schedule is going to change in future years is pretty much what you're asking me. Like, do you think that they'll schedule tougher opponents? You would hope, Mike, because of the fact that now you have a little extra wiggle room where if you lose a game or even if you lose 2 games, it doesn't eliminate you. But do I still think you'll have, like, for you guys played Akron this year and Western Michigan and Marshall? Yeah, I still think you'll get some of those games on the schedule.
Yeah, well, and I understand the theory behind it and the logic, but I think that is, again, one of the reasons the SEC is the dominant conference is because they play each other and they're the more dominant teams. So when you have those early seasons matchups with these brutal physical teams, you're used to it. You're prepared for it. And as a coach and
so you know what you're saying, Mike? You're saying you miss Jim Harbaugh and his physicality at Michigan. That's what you're saying? I got to let you run, Mike, because I'm up against it, but thanks so much. I know Mike absolutely hates the Michigan Wolverines. And I am wearing a Michigan sweatshirt today, military Michigan sweatshirt, which is very nice, very comfortable. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. Kevin Carter is going to join us in studio. Former NFL player, 100 sacks in his career. Also had his college days spent in Gainesville, down in the swamp. Get his thoughts on Billy Napier and the state of the Gators coming up next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, hour number 2 of our radio program. College football playoff rankings came out last night, and I'll tell you, as the rankings continue to come out each and every Tuesday, I get more and more excited about the actual college football playoff games. And I was not a big fan and advocate of going from 4 to 12. I thought it was unnecessary, and everything's gone right this year where you've had a lot of teams fall down that we thought were going to be really good, and then they found a way to pick it back up, and they're still alive towards the end of the season. I thought 6 or 8. For a while, it was 8, and I threw out that formula of, okay, the 5 highest-ranked Power 5 conference champions would get in. That's when the Pac-12 was still around, and then the other teams would be your wild card spots. But this has ended up going to work, at least the way that the immediate return would be. When you see the bracket last night, and it's Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, Miami at 3, Boise State at 4, and then when you take a look at the first-round matchups, Ohio State going up against BYU, Notre Dame up against Alabama, Penn State up against Georgia, Indiana, and Ole Miss, and you wonder just how many of those teams are going to eventually just stay put right there and remain in the top 12. Like, is BYU going to be there at the end of the year? Are we also going to see in the ACC, right? Are we going to have Miami that end up making that spot as well? So there's a whole lot cooking right there, and really not too many people better than my next guest to talk college football with. He does a great job for CBS Sports. He had over 100 sacks in his NFL career, should be in the Hall of Fame, but for some reason they don't give him any of that love. And he's a Florida Gator, so I know he's got to be a little bit happy after last week. That's Kevin Carter. Casey, what's happening?
Doing well. Definitely happy after Gators win. It's nice to to have some of the fans that were killing me on social media after I went on this rant on my story and everything else saying,
Wait, what happened? You were defending Billy Napier and the Gators?
Don't fire Billy Napier after
week
2. It wasn't about.
I'm kidding.
But see, that's the thing. It's like I like Billy Napier as a person.
Okay.
He has my vote as a person, as the right person to get the job done. But in the dynamics and the complexity of college football, with the need to win right now and turn a program around with that big brand. If Gator fans aren't relevant in the national championship picture every year, then they think something's wrong. And I'm like, you're living in a fantasy world. We're so far away from that. We have to stick with someone to build and start the process of reconstructing, Florida greatness. And I said, you're going to lose half your team. You're basically saying that this year is a wash. I said, look, I've been there with those kids over the summer. Billy Napier let me kind of be a fly on the wall and have carte blanche, just kind of walk around and roam and see whatever I wanted to see. And I was like, man, you guys are going in the right direction. Like, he's doing this wholesome in a right way. He's recruiting great kids, people of character. I like everything about what he's doing.
The one hot name that everyone speculated for that job, I don't know if he would have taken it or not, was Lane Kiffin. Would you rather have, if Lane Kiffin said, I want to be the next coach of the Gators, would you rather hire Lane Kiffin or run it back with Billy Napier?
That's a hard sell. Lane Kiffin is one of the best play callers, I think, in college football. I think Jackson Dart is a good quarterback, but with a DJ Lagway, dare I say, man, the magic that he could create. They've got good receivers. Like Shamir DK, he's leaving, but you got Elijah Badger, you got Aiden Mizell. You've got some dudes. You got a young running back in Jaden Baugh that's having a great year. Montrell Johnson's still there. And your defense is so improved from a year ago. All that said, I know I'm avoiding the question.
Yeah, that's his way of saying, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say
in
Lane
a perfect world, I would say Lane Kiffin, just by reputation, pedigree, and unfortunately, splash.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And here's the thing. I looked at that job, and I don't think you just keep a guy because you go, oh, I'm struggling to find who the next guy would be. But the one hot name was Lane Kiffin, and Lane likes the drama. They could have fired Napier. Lane could have gave him a little bit of some mixed signals, and then he leaves him at the altar. And then who do you go after that? That's why I thought it was important, because it's one thing for the AD to come on out, Kevin Carter, and say, hey, we're keeping him.
Right.
Because you knew what the schedule was going to be, and I thought they were going to get bludgeoned in a lot of these games.
Yeah.
But just to get a victory like they got last week, it kind of just validates the decision, even though it doesn't mean that Billy Napier is going to go on to have a 6-year run at Florida and be some great success.
I think also, truth be told, I like Scott Strickland. He's a good guy, but I think his reputation definitely is on the line with Billy Napier. Your last 2 coaching hires, basically you continue the burning through of these coaches and, guys that we're still paying, right? Jim McElwain, it's hard to rectify burning through coaches. Dan Mullen's doing ESPN right now, and he's still getting paid. So it's just like
and he's very happy at ESPN.
Yeah, he's very happy. He's having a great life. He's hanging out with his kid, watching his kid play high school football and everything. So you have to trust someone to get the party started, to get the process started of rebuilding. And in this day and age, you've got 3 pieces of your college football team. Basically, you have the players that you can recruit and bring in, the ones that you can keep and develop and keep them going in the portal, and the ones you bring in from the portal. Okay, so to me, coaching culture has never been more important than it is now, because right now you have to tie so many brains together and get them sold on playing the way you want them to play. There's a difference in the way you play. You can have a team of great players, or you can have a great team. Okay, team of great players is Ohio State. Okay, the Buckeyes are a team of great players, 4- and 5-star talent as far as the eye can see. Indiana is a great team. Okay, I'm not going to say right now that Mikael Kamara or James Carpenter or any of these guys up front for Indiana, who leads the Big Ten in sacks and leads the Big Ten in tackles for a loss. I'm not going to say that those 2 guys that I just mentioned stack up on a pro day, player for player, with JT Tuimoloau or Jack Sawyer, for instance.
Sure.
But I know that, these guys will hold the point over and over and over again so that their buddy makes the play. They will set the edge 10 times in a row and not make a tackle so their linebacker has a free run because they are a team. So they're playing better than 5-star talent with 3- and 4-star guys.
Let's just say if
that's what we want to create. That's what you have to create first before you can get better. That's what Georgia has. They have a constant pipeline of developing players within their program, which is why on any given day, when they put it together, they can beat your ass.
Let's just say, Kevin Carter, Indiana gets blown out this weekend.
Okay.
I still think they should make the college football playoff. Yourself?
It's a hard sell. Strength of record matters. The strength of schedule matters. You can only play who's on your schedule. I know that, but unfortunately there is a disparity with the teams in the Big Ten, more so than the teams in the SEC. There are more good teams on the same level in the SEC.
Agreed.
But Indiana will have played the bottom 5 teams in the Big Ten. They have no splash wins. They have nothing. Their strength of schedule. So I think when they put basically in the rankings, College Football Playoff Committee puts in Indiana at 5, their 10-0 looks different than Oregon's number 1 10-0. So when they have them behind a 1-loss Penn State team, and I don't have
Penn State's also played like nobody outside Ohio State.
Exactly, but they have a good loss. And so that even trumps Indiana's 10-0 schedule with the 5 worst teams in the division. I mean, your non-conference play, Charlotte, FIU, I mean, you're really grasping at straws. There's no meat on that bone.
So I think Indiana, they could be alive in this game. I think Ohio State's going to win the game, but
I don't think so.
Oh, you think Indiana's winning the game up against Ohio State?
I do.
All right, expand why.
Well, I was kind of on that track talking about just that they're a better team. I mean, like I said, when you look at their front 7, Indiana leads the Big Ten in sacks. Indiana leads the Big Ten in tackles for a loss. They play better up front. They play better team defense. There is an art form to filling the gap, setting the edge, not letting your corner be compromised. All the little things that you do, yards per play, controlling the vertical field position. These are things that, dare I say, a school like Indiana, they mastered first before they could master the great play, right? They have great play from experienced individuals, the guys that I mentioned up front within their front 7. I mean, Mikael Kamara's got 9.5 sacks. Okay, JT Tuimoloau's got 5. Okay, I'm saying the production is up everywhere because they're playing as a team. I like their skill position players. I like Elijah Surratt. I like Miles Price, Miles Cooper, Tyson Lawton, Justice Ellison. All those guys are 5th-year senior transfers. And I noticed this early in the season, and I know sometimes we as analysts say things that are kind of above people's understanding or IQ for the game, but I said, watch out for Indiana. They play fast, and they're skill position players. Their skill position players play fast. Why? They have an elevated football IQ. They've been in the same system for 5 years now. You got senior transfers, and he brings in half the staff from James Madison, and next thing you know, you've got this team of players that have been playing together for a while. They're experienced, and they're bought in. And so I think they beat Ohio State because I think the weak link there is quarterback play. I think when you saw Ohio State go in there with all those 5 stars against the likes of Oregon, what was the difference? It was Dylan Gabriel. So in those elite games, it's a quarterback-driven league. Your quarterback, person touches the ball every play, going to have a profound effect on the outcome of the game. I like Curtis Rourke. I trust him more. I trust his decision-making process within what his team can create. They're patient. They don't panic. They'll match you person for person up front. Ohio State isn't going to run away with this, okay? Will Howard isn't that guy. Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate, and Jeremiah Smith are underutilized. There's no reason that their numbers should resemble that of Elijah Surratt. They look the same. They look damn near interchangeable. And the guys that I mentioned for Ohio State will be playing on Sunday. And you're talking about the talent that's the likes of, Jeremiah Smith's like Larry Fitzgerald or Julio Jones or whoever you want to put up there that's an instant impact Jamar Chase type player in the NFL. That's what you've got. You've got 3 of them there, and Mika Ibuka and Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And, have those guys less than, 700 yards receiving on the year. I mean, Carnell Tate's got 4 touchdowns. Hadn't caught a touchdown pass in like 4 games. I mean, seeing these guys catch touchdown passes is just like, you see the relief on their face. They're just like, oh, man, finally getting touches, finally getting fed. So I think more of the same continues. I think Will Howard is limited. I think the offense is limited because of Will Howard being the quarterback. That's no indictment on him. It's just what you can do and the throws that you can make in the offense and how you process. I mean, Will Howard wouldn't have started for Kansas State this past season. That's why he left, because Avery Johnson is a budding superstar. So if you're not going to start there, how can you go and be the quarterback? And let me say this, $250,000. That's the difference. They could have had Cam Ward.
That's what I was saying.
Just putting it out there.
When the transfer portal opened up and I was projecting all these quarterbacks, I said, Ohio State's going to go get Cam Ward. It makes so much sense. And look, Cam Ward is the team. I know Restrepo's very good at Miami, the receiver, but Cam Ward is their entire team. They live and die based off him.
Right.
And if you put him with this talent at Ohio State, I say this is something that I can't stand Ohio State. I can't stand their coach. That's the biggest problem. That's where I'll agree with you. Cignetti isn't going to fear. I still think Ohio State's going to win the game. Cignetti doesn't fear anybody.
No.
Ryan Day, even though his team displayed toughness against Penn State, which it helps when you're going up against James Franklin, who can't win a big game to save his life. But Ryan Day, to me, is very fake tough guy. Like, even last year, we beat Notre Dame. Oh, Lou Holtz, my team's tough. Shame on you. Like, that whole stuff is insufferable. And that toughness of Ohio State, it's still out there, and we're going to see if it's going to be up to par coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, well, toughness is one thing, and there are different types of toughness, all right? And this is the point that I'm really trying to drive home with why I trust Indiana so much. When you look at the collective team defense they play with, the collective team offense they play with, it's almost the reason why you have to like and respect and be a fan of a team like BYU. Okay, because you never know where the game-changing play is going to come from. I mean, there are no superstars on BYU's team. I mean, I'm looking at this they're running back by committee, but that same aspect is true with Indiana. I mean, they're not superstars. They're just guys that make plays. And
let's be real with BYU. I could say this because I'm Jewish. They got a Jewish quarterback. That helps as well.
The BYU Jew, Jake Reslov, he is a dude. I love what he's putting down. But I just think Indiana is a better team. I think all-star teams don't win championships. The best teams do. I mean, look at the Patriots. Look at whoever you want to put out there. I mean, obviously, in college football, you've got the machines like Nick Saban created and what Kirby Smart's doing at Georgia and the programs that just have so much overwhelming talent. But in this case with Ohio State, the person touches the ball every play. I'm telling you, it's a quarterback-driven league, and I think that Indiana is a better team. They will not be scared, okay? And up front within the front 7, Indiana's going to come for Ohio State. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Will Howard. And Will Howard will have to throw the ball over the middle. He will have to attack the middle of the field. I mean, because, talking about arm strength and processing, you're going to throw that deep dig or that deep out, on the opposite hash. Will Howard's not that guy, man. He's not slinging it all over the field like that. So they're going to try to do what they do. They have to manufacture looks to get guys open so that he can throw the ball. I don't see it.
Let's just say if you're wrong and Ohio State wins, how many points can Indiana lose by to still feel safe in terms of making the college football playoff, assuming they don't lose one more game?
I think if it's a one-possession game.
Okay.
I think if it comes down to who has the ball last, and it's a tight ball game, and I think Indiana doesn't look totally out of character. They don't go out and commit a bunch of turnovers and have a sloppy game where they just fall apart in the face of a seemingly superior opponent on the road in a tough atmosphere. The stage is too big. I don't think that will be the case. I think Indiana is ready for this. I think they've planned for it. I think their minds are wrapped around it, and they're collectively bought in. I mean, look, I was one of those people on a team with a guy who won the ACC from Duke, and he came into Florida talking a bunch of crap. And he told me, you can either go somewhere else and get beat by us, or you can come here and lead, and win with us. And you, Kevin Carter, will make all the difference in the world. People will follow you here. That's what Steve Spurrier told me. I committed Jack Jackson, Ellis Johnson, Chris Doering, all these guys come on, and next thing you know, the rest is history. Next thing you know, I'm a senior, and I'm looking at Fred Taylor, Ike Hilliard, Reedale Anthony, Jacquez Green. I'm looking at first-rounders, and they're all freshmen. I'm looking at Freak, Mike Peterson, all these dudes, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Here we go.
This is what swag and coaching and culture brings you. Curt Cignetti is creating just that in Indiana.
All right, let's do this. We'll take a quick break. We'll come on back with Kevin Carter because I got to talk more about the Big 12 and Coach Prime. Also got to get into the ACC, and then we got to chat a little Heisman as well.
We'll talk wager as well.
Oh, you got wager?
Because I owe you money.
Oh, yeah, you do. You owe me $1 and all pennies, and you still haven't gave it to me because you're cheap.
I am willing to go double or nothing Ohio State, Indiana.
I'm wearing a Michigan shirt. You're going to make me bet on Ohio State? This just seems rancid. See, it seems like I'm getting screwed here. We'll take a quick timeout. Come on back. Zach Gelb here with you with Kevin Carter on the Infinity Sports Network. But first, let me tell you about my friends at Sleeper. Football season is in full swing. Take full advantage by winning some cash with Sleeper Picks. Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 of your favorite player stats. If you're right, you could win. You can pick up to 8 players and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Sleeper has a special offer. New users will have their first deposit match up to $1,500. If you deposit $1,500, they'll give you an extra $1,500 in credit. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections every week of the season. Check in and see what they have this week. Download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be matched 100% up to $1,500 in credit. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest-growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code SCORE for up to $1,500 credit match on your first deposit. Once again, that's code SCORE. Must be at least 18 years old in most states and a state where it's legal. Promo code, location, and other restrictions apply. See terms used for details at sleeper.com. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hanging out with our friend Kevin Carter. Does a great job. CBS Sports. You can catch him all throughout the college football season. So Kevin Carter, I thought he was a Florida Gator. I found out after that segment, though, that he really played football for Indiana with how much he was hyping up the Hoosiers. Signetti have you on the payroll? Jeez Louise, that was impressive.
Well, actually, Trent Green, he sent me a little something under the table, so I talk go well about Indiana.
One more thing going back to Florida's impressive victory last week up against LSU. There's the other side of that. And it's Brian Kelly with his family over at LSU.
Yeah.
He left Notre Dame because he thought he could go win a national championship at LSU. In theory, I understand it. You've had 3 coaches win national championships since 2000 at LSU, but I just don't think he's ever going to win it all down there.
You've got to recruit. You've got to recruit. You've got to recruit. And the one thing about like Louisiana, that area of the country, like it doesn't matter. You may not have the 4 and 5 stars, but you got dudes from the South that are just as good. like the darndest thing every year with LSU that I could never figure out is that whenever we played them physically, they were just as good as we were. Mm-hmm. Like even when I was back, I was playing for Spurrier in the 90s. I mean, they were just as big, just as fast, just as physical. They just didn't have the plan, or maybe they were one player short or a quarterback short. That isn't the case now. They don't have dudes anymore. They've had guys leave their program in the last couple of years with a turnover, and this year their defense is just really suspect. They're not playing well. I think their team overall is undisciplined. Nussmeier is sometimes erratic. People love him. I mean, all these analysts saying, who you going to take as a quarterback in the SEC to win one big game? And, everybody, McElroy, everybody's saying, we love Nussmeier. Every analyst on every other network is all talking about these guys. And I'm like, what about Jalen Milroe? What about Quinn Ewers? What about the guys who were winning games at these places? And, everybody's high on Nussmeier. Nussmeier's been erratic. He hasn't been consistent. And the team's been inconsistent because of it.
Who's the best team in the SEC, in your opinion?
Has to be Texas. Has to be the most complete team, I think. But the SEC is funny like that. Like Alabama can beat you. Georgia can muster it up, and they've shown that they can, play with elite teams as well on a given day. Don't think Carson Beck is the guy, and obviously their run game.
Good week last week, though.
Good week last week.
About time.
Unbelievable week last week. He had to have that kind of game because Georgia only ran the ball for the second straight week for less than 100 yards. I mean, that's not the way that Georgia typically wins, and their offensive line is beat up. South Carolina's playing really well now.
I like Beamer, too.
Shane Beamer's a talented young coach. Lenora Sellers is the truth. They got 2 amazing edge rushers, Stewart. So
I think the most dangerous really hard to team is Bama.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been out on Carson Beck, but he kind of sucked me back in a little bit last week. Ole Miss, I love their defense. and it's weird. The offense is the part that I don't trust the most. But I look at Alabama. They struggled to play complementary ball this year.
Right.
But then in two of their biggest games, the Georgia game and then the LSU game, they ran them off the field in the first half. And I just think if they could get what we saw at a Milroe in the first half against Georgia and in the game up against LSU, I just think they have the highest ceiling, especially with a coach like DeBoer.
I think that's also the playing approach, the coaching approach, rather, with Jalen Milroe. I said that when they lost earlier in the season, I said you have to use Jalen Milroe as a weapon in the run game. He'll open everything up for everyone else, and he's unstoppable. And that's kind of been the formula for when they've won big games.
They're
this
kind
year.
of like, I compare them to me at blackjack. Like, I know I'm sitting down at the table for a certain amount of time.
Right.
The highs are really good. There's going to be some lows. The question is, can you stay through the lows? And there's been times this year where they hit the lows, and it's like, whew, how the heck did that happen?
But that's the thing. That's I believe that's coaching. I believe in those games where they lost, even with Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt outplayed them. Okay, so I'm not going to take anything away from them. They outplayed them in every aspect of the game. You go on the road, you're half cocked. You have a bad plan. You don't execute properly. That's what happens. But I think from a coaching standpoint, when you try to get cute, when you say, okay, oh wow, we've got Ryan Williams, we've got these guys, we have dudes, and we can make this, and you draw it up on the X's and O's on the chalkboard, and you don't control vertical field position, you don't control time of possession, you don't control, where drives start, and the little things, the details, the turning the ball over, all those little game metric components, game control metric things that can help you win. And when you don't pay attention to those things against another team, I think that's what happened with them. I think that's more of a coaching philosophy. First year, Kalen DeBoer learning his talent, learning what he can do and can't do. I think by this time of the year, though, everyone knows their best way to win. Okay, and talking about Ole Miss, you brought up Ole Miss. Who's the best team? Ole Miss was my dark horse at the beginning of the season to win the SEC, because I believe the one thing when Ole Miss went out and beat Georgia, they beat Georgia like Georgia used to beat people.
Yeah.
Okay. Run the ball, dominated the line of scrimmage, like 134 yards to 59 respectively in that game. Controlled, dominated time of possession by more than 8 minutes. And the one key component with Ole Miss has been averaging 9 to 10 penalties a game. They had 3 penalties, and they won the turnover battle. Like, if Ole Miss goes out and plays clean football and doesn't have a bunch of pre- and post-snap penalties, they could beat anybody. Like, they're that good. And I know that Jackson Dart, people are sometimes on him, but I like Ole Miss. I really do. But, you might have 5 teams that'll be 10-2 in the SEC by the time it's done. And it's a pretty good discussion as to see who's the best team. That's why, you say who's the best team in the SEC? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a good problem.
I don't know.
So when you look last night, the big takeaway from the bracket is that Boise got a bye. BYU was put to 12. At the end of the year, it's one thing to do that now. Do you think the committee, if Boise wins their conference, would still give them a bye if BYU's the conference champ, or do you think they would eventually move BYU up?
That's a good question. I think they want to honor kind of the structure that's there. And, you want to try to keep Big 12, Big 10, SEC, ACC. You want to kind of give them kind of carte blanche. I mean, because that's, the original part of the original Power 5. I think it's going to come down to strength of schedule.
Okay.
And strength of record. I think if you look at Boise, the way that they've played, the way they've won their games, I mean, they go out and beat teams that that aren't supposed to be on the field with them, and they lost to Oregon by 3 points.
Yeah, they should have won that game.
That is an unbelievable loss for them, and they boat raced everyone else since. And talk about great players in the country. I mean, Ashton Genty is
stud.
He is the truth. I mean, you basically pick your poison with him, whether you're going to stop him from hitting the home run. If you don't do that, he's just going to bludgeon you for 7.7 yards per carry and end up with about 150 yards by the end of the game, and your defense is going to be worn the blank out, and you're going to lose
150 is actually kind of light for him, I think.
So, I mean, I love everything. I love everything about this Boise State team. I mean,
Quarterback's getting better too.
Quarterback Maddox Madsen is the art form of having such an unbelievable running attack is the quarterback finally settling down into game management mode, and it's a beautiful thing. Maddox Madsen's numbers, he's playing clean games, he's delivering the football, and he's got the freedom because the weight of manufacturing offense isn't solely on his shoulders. I mean, it's an easy play call for an offensive coordinator, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, because you got a guy that's just getting positive yards on those early downs. So I like their team.
Is he your
one of the best defenses in the Mountain West? I mean, everything about what they do.
And I like Danielson too. He's a really good young up and coming coach and took over a tough situation last year and ended up winning the conference. Is Genty your Heisman pick right now? Is it Travis Hunter or somebody else?
I think Genty has to be there. I think Travis Hunter has to be there. I think that Shedeur Sanders should be there. No one talks about him. No one talks about like Shedeur on the level of probably the first quarterback taken in the draft, and I mean what he's doing, he can spin it. He makes every throw. They don't run the football. It's when you see them manufacturing points, he's doing it. He's
really their MVP over Travis Hunter.
He's their MVP. Like I said, I don't see how you can keep the two of them out of being finalists in New York. I mean, Cam Ward's had a great season.
Dylan Gabriel
they
too.
Have a loss. Dylan Gabriel's got to be there by default because he's the seemingly QB number 1 on the best team in college football.
I think those are the 5 guys that get an invite, and that's what I've been saying. To me, only Genty or Hunter right now I think could win the award.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's going to be a fascinating debate because a lot of people, right, as many people say, oh, we don't like Coach Prime and how many haters they have, a lot of people have been hyping up Travis Hunter. And Genty, we all acknowledge he's a good player. And we're on in one of our affiliates is on in Boise, KTIK. So we've had Genty on. Like I've been leading kind of the Genty charge a little bit. So I have a megaphone for it. But there's a lot of people that go, oh, yeah, he's good. But who they really play? And they don't even know that they played Oregon this year.
It doesn't really matter. And not to be funny, I think people don't realize how real the transfer portal really is and how a lot of these teams have been mismatched and jumbled up. You got a lot of talent that didn't go to smaller schools per se because they wanted to go to smaller schools. They went because they wanted a chance to play. And I think you have a lot of saturated talent in some of these Mountain West and Conference USA and American and Sun Belt and even in the MAC. You've got a lot of talent that wouldn't necessarily be there if not for the transfer portal. And the teams, from year to year, you change out 20 players, you have a different team. So the level of talent, I say, is debatable who he's playing against, but it doesn't matter who he's playing against. I mean, how good do you think Oregon is?
Yeah.
Okay. He
good.
Yeah, he ran through them like a hot knife through butter. So what do you want? Like what is it? What else does he have to do?
I don't get anyone that still doubts him. If I'm just being honest, it's stupid.
Turn on the film.
Big 12. I know you like BYU. Do you think they're going to continue to win the conference? Because a few weeks ago I turned on Colorado. You talk about the team component. I thought they were a bunch of individuals before the start of the season. Now they're playing 3 phases of football.
They got kind of bit. Obviously, I guess Kansas, that's what you run into in November conference play. You run into the team that's been struggling all season long, and then all of a sudden they finally figure something out. They figure out their best way to win a game, and then they put it together and they beat you. When you look at the numbers from that loss for BYU, it's perplexing. Okay. BYU had double the first downs, won the time of possession by more than 5 minutes, had more than 100 yards total offense, had one more turnover in the game, but you wouldn't think that it would make that big of a difference. I mean, Kansas had less than 300 yards total offense.
Vegas also had BYU laying 2.5, and I looked at that line and I said, BYU's going down this week. This is a sucker line to get everyone to bet BYU.
Yeah,
that's how I kind of look at it.
They always know things. I'm like, so but it happens to everyone. I like BYU. I like the story. I like the quirky nature of the bought-in players, and I like that the greatness that enables them to win week in and week out doesn't come from the same person every week, and I like that. So my heart is with them. Do I think anyone can beat Colorado at this point? No.
Okay.
So if those two, all things stay the same way they are now and they go to the Big 12 championship game, BYU's not beating Colorado.
And then the last thing I'll ask you, the ACC, I think everyone has already just given it to Miami. I kind of think SMU, that doing this long enough, whenever somebody expects one team to always win, I feel someone else is going to. And SMU just keeps on sitting there, and they keep on looking good.
I like SMU, and I think Kevin Jennings is playing out of his mind right now. I like their defense, best defense in the ACC. I like how they play, and the trust factor with Miami is a real issue because you wonder, okay, is Cristobal going to do something or is he going to make a decision? And that's no indictment on him, but it's just like when you have a pattern of things that you've done that can be considered bonehead moves, in crunch moments, times a game. Dan Lanning too, right? He got to be in that category. Had a moment's sigh of relief going for the fake field goal, Oregon, and still winning that game. Defense came up big for him, right? But Miami's that situation, and they played with fire too much and got burned, and Cam couldn't work his magic. For them.
And quite frankly, they should have lost to Virginia Tech and Cal.
Should have lost Virginia Tech. Should have lost to Cal as well. So I think SMU resume wise and how they've played looks better than Miami, but people need to understand this in terms of there's a difference between the rankings and the bracket. Okay. And I tell people, like, 4 of the top 5 teams are in the Big Ten, right? Doesn't mean that they think those teams are better than everyone else. It's just that everything's kind of centered around that number 1 team and who's going to go and who's going to win and lose the Big Ten championship thing. The same thing with the SEC. Okay, you see, 9 through 12. There's, it's convoluted with 2-loss SEC teams, and they're ranked over 1-loss SMU, and all these people who were kind of waiting before last weekend to kind of move up into the standings. And it's like I saw singular representation in both the ACC and Big 12. And last week, before last week, it was BYU and Miami, right? Their contenders weren't nestled right around them. Their contenders are up in the teens. They're SMU, they're Louisville, they're Clemson. They're kind of looming. And it's devised
to eventually shift everybody up after these games play out.
And it's like, okay, so someone lost. Now you can move people up, but only then. Okay, they're really, really centered on what happens in the Big Ten and the SEC. That's going to set the tone for everything else that happens when that bracket gets formed. So in terms of the ACC championship game's going to be interesting, man. That's going to be interesting. I mean, but I like SMU.
I'm with you.
I really do.
I got 45 seconds left. Okay. Last thing for Kevin Carter. Championship game this year. Who are the 2 teams in it if you had to take a stab at it right now?
Oh, man. Oregon. Bama.
Wow. I had Bama in the championship game before the year started. I have Bama, Georgia. That's what I had.
So that's a safe bet.
Okay. And if you had to go out of the box.
If I had to go out of the box.
I'm saying Ole Miss.
I say Ole Miss.
Okay.
I say Ole Miss was my dark horse in the SEC, and I think on their best day, if they make it in and they get a first-round game against someone like Penn State or someone, they'll beat the tar out of Penn State. Drew Aller is another conversation. I got to come back to talk about the whole Penn State situation.
I mean, someone in the newsroom is a big Penn State fan. He's
really?
We could have you guys fight each other.
I like Penn State, but I'm sorry, you're in the same position. Your same position as Ohio State. Your quarterback isn't the guy. Okay, the best player on your team's tight end. What do you want? And you got underutilized Julian Fleming, right? Amari Evans. You got dudes back there, man, that Liam Clifford. They're underutilized. You got a better quarterback. Those guys have better numbers. That's all I'm saying.
He's Kevin Carter. Does a great job, CBS Sports. Kevin, appreciate you coming on in.
Anytime.
Let's get the latest update in with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the 25 semifinalists for the Football Hall of Fame were announced, and among them are former Giant Eli Manning, former Colts receiver Reggie Wayne, and former defensive back Darren Woodson. 4 to 8 members of that list will be elected. The Eagles' Bryce Huff will have surgery on his injured wrist. He is expected to return this year. Meanwhile, George Kittle expected to be back this week when the 49ers take on the Packers, as the Niners tight end said he's playing. The Cavaliers are coming off a loss for the first time this year, falling last night in Boston, and right back at it tonight, back home to host the 4-15 Pelicans. After tasting defeat for the first time, Donovan Mitchell said it's imperative to bounce right back.
It's great to be a part of history. We wish we would have kept it going, but like I said, there's no championships in November. This is a great part of the season. Now we just continue we're not losing 2 in a row. That's the goal.
The Warriors and Thunder also coming off loss. The 2 top teams in the West are on the schedule tonight as well, with Golden State home to take on the Hawks and OKC host Portland. Rookie of the Year, Paul Skeens will try to capture another award tonight. The Cy Young will be handed out. The Pirates phenom is a finalist in the NL, along with 18-game winner Chris Sale of the Braves and the Phillies' Zach Wheeler. The Tigers' Tarek Skubal, the favorite in the American League, along with the Royals' Seth Lugo, and the Guardians' Emmanuel Clase. I'm Rich Acker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
I actually just witnessed a murder during the commercial break. Stu, did you hear that yelling, by the way, in the hallways?
Sure did.
So Kevin Carter, I could tell, does not think Penn State's all that good, right? So I see Hickey in the newsroom, and I just let them go at it. Kevin Carter's still here talking to Hickey. We went to commercial break 7 minutes ago. It's still going on. They were yelling. I took a video of it. They were yelling at each other. And what really set Kevin Carter off is I said, oh, by the way, this guy also thinks the Big Ten and the SEC are on equal playing grounds. And Hickey, I saw the take on the internet. It was stupid. And he goes, Illinois is like the same as South Carolina, which is so disrespectful to South Carolina. And Kevin Carter turns to Hickey and goes, South Carolina would walk into Penn State and destroy the crap out of them. And Hickey verbally got sacked by a dude in Kevin Carter who is a ferocious human being, has had over 100 sacks in the NFL. And Kevin Carter emasculated Hickey. He goes, I have a PhD in football. You don't. It was awesome. It was spectacular. And they are still going at it. Now, I kind of had them settle it down a little bit. They're not yelling anymore. But Samter and Stu came out during it. I saw it in the corner of my eye. And they were observing. As if we were at like a petting zoo or something. And the two of them were just performing. And they were just going at it. Hickey and Kevin Carter. And let me tell you something. We'll get Hickey's reaction on it in about 10 minutes when he joins us in studio. Hickey a few years ago would not have had the cojones to go toe-to-toe with Kevin Carter. He would have been like, oh, hi, Kevin. Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for talking to Zach. Now, Hickey, we bring guests in, and he's trying to fight them. All righty, let's get to Connor Hughes. He makes it clear on SNY that the Aaron Rodgers era with the Jets, or error, if you want to call it, is over.
We've talked a lot about how they're going to be looking for a new coach. We knew about that. They're going to be looking for the new general manager. We've known that. It's very clear now that this organization is also going to want to find a new quarterback as well. That the Aaron Rodgers season tenure with the Jets is going to be over because they're not going to find a coach handpicked by him. And if you think about why Aaron Rodgers came here in the first place, Janae, it was because he came here because Nathaniel Hackett was already here. He didn't want new. He didn't want different. He didn't want to be overly challenged. He wanted what he knew and what he was comfortable with.
Yeah, it's over. I thought there was a chance Rodgers was going to come back next year, but then we find out that Woody Johnson, according to The Athletic, wanted him bench back in week 4. However many more games he's going to play, it's over with. Does he maybe sit down at some point from now until the end of the season? I don't think Rodgers would go out that way, but I do think he's going to be playing somewhere else next year or he'll retire. This is On the Edge with Micah Parsons. Just listen up to Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. They still think the Cowboys are actually good.
I'm going to put this out there. We're a damn good football team. I know the scores ain't showing it. I know, obviously, people feel like we got so many missing pieces, but I just truly believe, like I think our defense is really turning things around. Like, up until that last quarter when they got that touchdown defense, we only really gave up those 2 touchdowns that first quarter. But other than that, we gave up 6 points in the other 2 quarters.
I agree. I feel like we got a really good football team.
Yeah, I just hate that, the score don't really show how good we actually are. And especially for me, you know how good of a coach Al is and how good of a coach I think Zim's doing. I'm just speaking defensively. How good, our coaches have been. I just hate that outcome because our coaches is really doing an amazing job.
Yeah, you can't say you're a great team when you're getting outscored in your last 6 home games in just the first half, 141-51. And then for the entirety of the games, you're 0-6, getting outscored 235-101. So stop telling me how great of a football team you are. I know your coaches are doing a great job. And what is it? He was like ripping McCarthy last. I don't care what happened to Big Mike, basically. Now stop it. You guys suck, all right? Your football team sucks. They're a bad football team. Anyone with the brain knew you guys were going to be bad this year. That's why I predict you not to make the playoffs. So stop telling me you're a great football team. If you're great, why are the scores so lopsided? Oh, we got 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's a lot. Finally, let's hear Adam Schefter on This Is Football Podcast with Kevin Clark.
Weirdest place you've broken a story is what?
I can remember being in Denver one time, and I was how do I say this? I had just spent time with this woman for the first time.
Yeah, okay.
And
sure.
And got a text that Dale Carter was being suspended. I think it was for 8 games for substance abuse. And so as I continued to lay there, confirm it, and got the job done, Kevin, in every which way.
I'm just staring straight at the camera, buddy. I'm just not. That's it. That's it.
So Schefter having a little bam chicka wank wank time back in the day. And I'm going to assume once the act was over with, if I'm maybe speaking from some personal experience here, he then maybe rolled over, checked the phone, and then, oh my God, I got news that I have to break, and then starts, tweeting or getting the news out wherever he had to get the news out. I don't think he was on the phone, as the kids would say, laying pipe and breaking the story as Schefter was going at it. All right? Stu, I don't want to give you a heart attack because if I went any further, you'd be hitting the dump button. That is for sure. Bilotti, if he was here, probably would have dumped me already. All righty. Ryan Hickey and Kevin Carter are still going at it. So I don't even know if we'll be able to get Ryan Hickey in studio in the next 5 minutes. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. I have never interviewed a dead person, but I'm going to attempt to do so right now. Because I just saw a murder in the newsroom. We'd actually had to pick up his dead body, and somehow we were able to pump some life back into him. Stu gave him CPR, and now he's back. But Kevin Carter, I took the commercial break, I think at like 4:38 p.m. Eastern time. And Kevin Carter was slamming Penn State, how they're overrated. Like, I'm up against him, and I got to introduce you to someone. And I just brought Hickey and Kevin Carter together, and it was like just it was like a bull and a chicken going after one another.
Who's who? I don't know.
He's the bull, you're the chicken, just to be clear. And I don't want to say stirring the pot, because I would never do that. But I just let you guys go at it over Penn State at first. And you guys were loud, but you were civil. And then I said, oh, yeah, by the way, Kevin, this guy over here thinks the Big Ten is better than the SEC. And that's when he, at one point, put his arm around you. I thought it was going to be physical.
It was emasculating, I will admit. He's a big man, and I'm not.
And he goes, and Hickey is going at it. Like, he is yelling at this guy. He's even taking, like, sips of water in between when Kevin Carter's talking, and he's just going right back at Kevin Carter. In-studio guest. Always love KC when he joins us. And then he puts his arm around Hickey, and he goes, I have a PhD in football. You don't. Oh, we have the audio? Oh, play me the audio real quickly. Go ahead.
One of these guys has a PhD in football.
He emasculated you.
Now you cut off the part
Absolutely.
when I am technically almost a college athlete. So my skill
How almost?
is neat. Well, I tried out for Penn State.
Oh, yeah, and you got cut.
Now, I did not make it, but technically I was on a college field just like Kevin Carter's on a college field. So.
Okay. So should I say, since I was recruited to walk on to Temple and I turned them down, that I was almost a college athlete as well?
Did you step on the field for a tryout?
I was on the field when they were recruiting me.
I'll say you
know what?
Me, Kevin, in terms of the tiers.
Are you
Football
Are you a big
experience.
Sopranos fan?
I have seen The Sopranos, yes.
You didn't have the makings of a varsity athlete. That's all I'm going to say. All right, Tony?
Well, Bill
I'm Uncle
O'Brien
June.
would agree. And you know what? I can't say I disagree with his judgment.
Okay, so let me ask you this. There's a lot to get into from the Kevin Carter conversation, but I saw a few takes from you this week that I just have to make sure that you're not doing drugs, all right? Like, I'm concerned about you a little bit.
I'm not cool enough to be offered drugs, so I'm definitely not doing that. I can promise you that.
Okay. Oh, we haven't really met your girlfriend. Maybe she's cool enough, and maybe you've just gotten into her stash. The shower no cap.
Yes.
So Hickey does this segment where he always has his phone next to the shower.
Correct.
And you record videos of you in the shower from the chest up.
Right.
And,
of course.
Well,
It's not OnlyFans.
Maybe more profitable if you just go the whole way.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to see that.
I don't want to see it, but maybe there's some ladies out there. You know, in Babylon, I'm sure there's a few ladies that would want to see that in Babylon where you grew up, just from what people tell me. You know, Mraz one day told me that he goes, like Hickey was like the hot you know what in his
I
grade.
was not.
You weren't.
I have no game now. I really had no game back then.
Okay.
I buzz cut haircut. Very ugly in high school.
Really? You were a buzz cut
Oh, yeah.
haircut?
I was a buzz cut haircut until my whole life until, I don't know, like about midway through college.
Okay. So you also brush your teeth in the shower.
Correct, of course.
Which is just weird. Disgusting, not sanitary. But your take yesterday or 2 days ago. When was the last time you done one of these before this one?
At least over a year.
Okay. Well, why'd you stop doing them?
I don't know.
Bit ran its course?
A little bit, and it is a big production. Like, you know, I'm not exactly the perfect one-take guy, so to sit there for 5 minutes just to do videos over and over again, I'm like,
The water bill was going up in that apartment. That's what it seems like to me.
I said, you know what?
Lolly was like, hey, there's too much water in that shower. Our bills are going up by $20 a month.
That bill, the bit kind of ran its course, so for the most part, I kind of retired that.
So that was natural. You didn't like walk into the shower and go, okay, I'm going to do this. Your phone was just there, and you just thought, this was Hickey's take. Once again, the views of Hot Take Hickey do not reflect the views of Zach Gelb and the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You think there's a realistic chance the Jets could get Nick Saban is what you threw out
I
there?
don't know about realistic, but I think it's what they should do. Like, he's the only man right now that can save them, and that's why they have to do every effort to go land him, because he would actually bring organization to the Jets in which they have not had, really since Bill Parcells, which is 25 years ago.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. Every person the Jets have hired has no idea what they're doing. I think if you're the Jets, right, you are...
Now, it didn't work out the first time he was in the NFL.
Correct, but also, I mean, he's like 500, which if you're the Jets, you're taking. I'm not saying like he's coming in and leading them to the playoffs. All you need Nick Saban to do in 2 or 3 years, not a long time, is get them back to like ground level. They're in a pit right now that's 100 feet deep. All you need to do is just get them back to neutral, and then from there you can kind of go forward. And how you dig out of this hole, I think, is by hiring a guy who knows what he's doing and has won everywhere he's been. Mm-hmm. Versus, like, you're going to go hire a young hotshot. I don't know who would take that job, first of all. You're going to hire a retread who's probably not, good, but just willing to take the job. Like, I think anybody that they hire, we're going to be here in 3 years from now talking about Jets fire another coach.
The 3 best coaches on the market. I'll address the Saban thing in just a second.
On the market, okay.
The 3 best coaches on the market, Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel. Those are the 3 most attractive.
Yes, I would agree with that. Right?
Okay.
There's no one
No.
Yeah, no one, right? Yeah.
Harbaugh took the Chargers job.
Right, yeah.
There's no one, Sean Payton's in Denver.
Right, a bunch of
which,
OCs,
by the
DCs
way,
are...
The 1 year you're not on the Broncos, they're actually doing well after 2 years of being all in on them. Just say.
Well,
just say.
I will say I did like Bo Nix in that pick a lot, and so far it's working out like I thought. But in terms of being all in on Super Bowl, yes, I pulled down the reins, and they are looking better than ever.
But to bring it back in, those 3 coaches are the 3 hottest names on the market. Yes. I don't think Belichick would go to the Jets. Obvious. We all know that.
100%.
Ben Johnson wouldn't go to the Commanders when they had the 2nd overall pick. He's not going to the Jets. Vrabel, I don't think it's likely, but I do think there's a chance. I'm not saying I'm expecting it. The Jet job is going to be tough, especially after even more so the article yesterday Now, it does help that it looks like Rodgers is going to be out of the building.
Agreed.
Because now you could bring in a GM, a head coach. You know Woody's probably going to England or wherever to join the Trump administration. That's not me just being a troll. He was the ambassador of the UK the last time.
And his brother took over.
Woody will, and his brother wasn't good, but Woody will pick the new coach, pick the new GM. They will draft their new quarterback or whatever. They'll make a decision on the quarterback, and then he will be away for 4 years. So the job is a little bit more attractive. You've put some lipstick on a pig. But with all that being said, saying Nick Saban to the Jets, you got to make the phone call.
1,000,000%.
That I will give you. I think Nick Saban would not even let you finish the sentence before he would hang up the phone. I think he has zero interest in coaching again. He's at peace. He would have never left Alabama. If he wanted to coach again, I know the NIL stuff and all that, but most importantly, you see how much Nick Saban's smiling these days and enjoying the later years of his life on college game day. Pat McAfee is going to be the one that prevents Nick Saban coaching anywhere again. He's amused by McAfee. That's like you saying the Jets should call Nick Saban. It's like you saying, hey, Zach, you should call Beyonce and see if you get a date. It's just not going to happen.
Here's the reality, though. For coaches, it's in their blood. And he's having fun now. You know, Bill Belichick looks like he's having fun too in media.
Belichick is doing this intentionally to change the image of him to get a job.
But once coaching's in your blood, I think it's hard to kick it. And if you tell Nick Saban 2 or 3 years, so you're not asking for a 10-year commitment. There's no NIL you have to worry about. You can hire GM. You can do, like, you have full control. Do whatever you want. If you want to just focus on coaching, you can do that. I think in a way can help get him back to his roots and do why he fell in love with the job in the first place, which is to coach the players. Mm-hmm. I think you can make it, again, it's the Jets, so I don't expect them to actually go through with this in terms of like making the right pitch, but there is a pitch out there. I think if there's some part of Nick Saban that still wants to coach, and going to the NFL is easier than college because, I think, to your point, I think he loves Alabama. Sure. I don't think he'd ever go back to the college game. Forget NIL just because he would not.
Maybe he could coach Temple. We're open.
He would not disrespect
if we're just going to throw erroneous things out there, Saban, you want to come coach Temple?
I think Temple, if you're the Jets, that's what you got to do. That should be your first, second, third option.
Rodgers. Is he playing next year?
No.
If he's playing next year, where?
That's why I said I don't know. I have no idea. I thought about it. Went through all 31 teams.
He's not coming back to the Jets. You would agree with that?
Agreed. Who would want him?
Can I give you 2 teams?
Sure. Let's hear it.
I'm looking at 1.
No.
And I'm looking at 2.
What? The Colts?
Here's why.
No.
Just listen. I would start Anthony Richardson next year. Your head coach, and don't tell me after one game the perception of Anthony Richardson has changed. It was up against the Jets. I know he looked good. It was a good moment to see him.
Can I say something really fast? The Jets' defense is not bad.
Oh, the Jets' defense is overrated.
It's not the 85.
It's overrated.
I would agree with that, but that doesn't mean that they're awful.
But
like,
that's also
top
a team
10
that has
defense
quit.
in
It's a
most
team that's
of
quit.
the categories, though. Like they're still a top 10 statistical defense.
They quit.
They're not playing the Jaguars. They're not playing the Panthers. Like, that's a defense that's still solid.
Still, we need to see some sustained success
I agree. I'm
from
not
Anthony Richardson.
Crowning Richardson after one game.
So let's say he stinks down the stretch.
Sure.
Shane Steichen doesn't like him. Shane Steichen doesn't think he's the dude. Incompetent organizations making competent decisions. I could see, I'm not saying it's a great chance. I could see in the slim pickings here an outside chance we're starting under center next year for the Indianapolis Colts is Aaron Rodgers.
The Colts went through a stretch of Phillip Rivers, of Jacoby Brissett, of Carson Wentz, of Matt Ryan.
Phillip Rivers is good.
No, he was good. I'm more saying they went the old guy route for a while, and more times than not, a bloop in their face. At 42, coming off of what is statistically, and you can look at it also with your eyes, the worst year of Aaron Rodgers' career right up there, there is no chance. No matter how bad Anthony Richardson is, no chance you're bringing this guy in, because forget just the play. Aaron Rodgers wants it on his terms. So you're now going to overturn and hand over the organization to a 42-year-old, hire who he wants, sign who he wants, for what? A year, 2 to stink? No, if I'm going to stink, I'd rather watch Anthony Richardson play. I'm not. No. Aaron Rodgers, no. And even for the Raiders, draft a quarterback.
Well, the Raiders should have done it 2 years ago. That's when they should have gone out there and get Aaron Rodgers. But here's the thing. The Raiders win a game or two that they're not expected to win down the stretch. I only think there's 2 quarterbacks in this draft that I would want to take in the top 10 right now. That would be Shador and that would be Cam. If they can't get those 2 guys, and I know, right, that decision would be made before in signing the quarterback. if they're picking at 8 or 9 and it doesn't seem likely that they're going to go get a quarterback in a quarterback draft that is not that strong and deep, I could see, once again, incompetent franchise making an incompetent decision. I think Rodgers should retire.
You're not a quarterback away, though.
No, you're not.
So if you're at 8, let's just say, and the 2 quarterbacks
but if you're gonna
like
suck, at least
are
it's a
gone,
decent placeholder that puts people in the seats.
Get an offensive lineman. Get a receiver. Like, they are so far away from contention, they need help elsewhere. Do not, like, bring in Aaron Rodgers to do, what are you doing at that point? Well, like, what are you trying to
Selling
gain?
tickets.
Oh, my. It's in Vegas. Every opposing fan every year circles the Raiders game. They have no problem selling tickets.
You asked me for 2 destinations. I gave you 2 destinations. And I prefaced it by saying slim pickings. Don't get mad at me.
So we're both agree retirement home next year?
That's what I think he should do. I was the only one with any stones a few weeks ago to ask him straight up if he's considering retirement. And he laughed at me and said no. He said he hasn't thought about it.
Well,
you're feisty today.
No, I'm not. Well, Kevin Carter did get me fired up.
Yeah. By the way, also, your take that the Big Ten is on the same level as the SEC. I'm not saying that the SEC is drastically better. There are better teams from top to bottom in the SEC than the Big Ten.
This year in 2024, I would disagree. The Big Ten is the 2 best teams of either conference in Oregon and Ohio State. You want to say in the next tier is Georgia and Bama? Okay, fine, I'll give you that.
Okay.
Then you look at the middle of, let's say, the middle of top 10. Penn State, Indiana, Ole Miss, Tennessee, A&M. They're all the same teams.
No, they're not.
They're all the same teams. They could go on and beat someone in the playoff. They all can lose in round number 1.
So can I ask you this just right now?
There's no difference.
Can I just ask you this right now?
Sure.
In terms of actually making the college football playoff, how many teams of the Big Ten do you think can actually still have a chance to make the college football playoff?
4.
How many teams can actually make the college football playoff still, or still have a case to make the college football playoff in the SEC?
Like who's mathematically alive? 5?
I would say there's 6.
A&M?
Texas A&M, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss. That's 6 teams.
Okay.
And then your 7th team is South Carolina, who's 7-3 right now. That's, to me, shows you why the SEC.
Illinois, but this is what I don't get. Why does Illinois get no respect? They're 6-3. Illinois is playing well, or 7-3 as well, I should say.
And when they went up against Oregon, they got the doors beat off.
And they were competitive against Penn State. I mean, South Carolina got blown out to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. And South Carolina, they've had good victories. They beat A&M. They dominated them in the second half. They're going to beat Clemson at the end of the year.
That's an if.
Would you agree that they're going to beat Clemson, South Carolina?
I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Because you're stubborn.
No, I'm just more like, it's just, to me, it's frustrating that you look at these teams and if you take away the logos, people would say there's not much difference, but then also you put an Ole Miss logo or a Mizzou logo, and now it's, these are these great teams. These are so good. How dare you disrespect or look down on these teams? This year, they are the same. The SEC and the Big Ten are the same. The bottom stinks, and even the top. Ole Miss lost to a 1-conference win Kentucky at home.
So hold on.
No one says anything.
Who do you think are the 2 best teams in the SEC?
I would say right now it would be Georgia and Alabama.
Even though Ole Miss beat Georgia?
Yes.
Bludgeon them. Okay.
Yes.
And Texas? No?
Texas is good, but who they played?
Who are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten? Ohio State and Oregon, right?
Correct. Yep.
So let's just inquiring minds. Let's just use the last night's college football playoff bracket. If you have Georgia going to Penn State, who's winning that game? Who's winning that game?
Penn State's winning.
You think Penn
They're at
State
home in the cold? Nobody's talking about that. That's a big advantage. Carson Beck's been bad on the road. By the way, this is a Georgia team that went on the road to Kentucky. Again, a 3-win Kentucky team, 1 win in conference, and won by 1 point.
Who has Penn State beaten?
Penn State's beat Illinois, who's ranked.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
And right now, that's it. A USC team that has fallen, the bottom's fallen out.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they have a great, resume in terms of who they played. But this is also part of the frustration. Penn State's resume is not great. Indiana's resume is not great. Texas's resume to this point, not great.
I give you that.
Part of the reason is scheduling discrepancy. It's not these teams' fault that they got a break where they get, you're in an 18-team and 16-team conference. You can't play everybody. Georgia last year got a great draw. They played nobody and walked right to the SEC title game and lost to Alabama in the only game they played.
Sure.
This year, they got the short end of the stick. They play all the top teams. That's what we're going to see going forward. There's never going to be a year in which, for the most part, the schedules are equal. You are going to have these imbalances. Oregon, they had a break. They only played Ohio State at home.
Some of these Big Ten schedule games are brutal.
But when you said, what does that mean? Look at the SEC. It's the same.
We are now. Indiana was unexpected, right?
Right.
This is Indiana's 11th game, right? They're 10-0.
Yes, they're 10-0.
This is the first great opponent they're playing.
I get it. And again, Texas, to this point, has played one great opponent
because
in Georgia.
the SEC is better than the Big Ten this year. That's why.
But I just told you Texas played the same. They've only played one good team up to this point.
Yes, that I agree with.
So I'm saying, why is Indiana getting after
but
Saturday?
There's more
Indiana
teams.
And Texas will have played the same amount of good teams on their schedule. Why is Indiana getting crapped on and Texas is getting praised?
Because of the brand.
But that's the point.
Sure.
That's the point. That's
and
the
also
frustration.
the SEC is better than the Big Ten.
That's the first. Not this year. Like that.
Yes, it is.
All
right, let me just ask you this. I'm just curious. You're Vegas, as I just knock off my computer cover, which I need a new one, by the way. You're Vegas.
Right.
Georgia at Penn State.
I've seen the spreads.
Okay. What would you have made the spread then?
I don't know, pick 'em game. But this is also the argument. This is what bothers me about the SEC. Now it's all hypothetical.
No.
Guess what?
Just shut up for a second.
Nobody saw Alabama losing to Vandy. The point spread was huge.
Yes.
Well, that's why you play the game.
I understand
so
that.
So Georgia's a 1-point favorite on the road
just
against
shut
Penn
up for
State.
a
What's
second?
the big deal? It doesn't matter.
I'm just asking you. I'm asking you a question here. I get it. A few years ago, Saban said the same thing. If we were playing, we would be the favorites against all of them. They didn't deserve to be in the playoff. I'm not arguing with you on this. I'm just asking you a question. Georgia's at Penn State.
Right.
How many points? Who wins and how many points do you think they win?
I think Penn State wins a 4-point game. Close game. 24-20, 27-20.
A good team in forever. Ole Miss at Indiana. Who wins that game?
I would say Indiana.
Okay. Alabama at Notre Dame.
I would probably take Alabama.
Okay. So you take the SEC school when they go up against someone that doesn't have Big Ten ties. But Indiana and Penn State. And I'm curious to see what Indiana does up against Ohio State. Kevin Carter, your guy, thinks Indiana's going to win.
I agree with him. I think they're winning. Big injury. That's also part of it, too, for Ohio State and the offensive line. Center's out for the year, which stinks.
Oh, yeah, the guy that was at Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you have center, guard, tackle on the left side of Ohio State's line that are either backups or guys playing out of position. Indiana, number one run defense in all of college football.
After seeing these two bozos basically roll in the newsroom together, Kevin Carter and Hickey.
Well, thank God we weren't rolling. He would kill me.
And you think Indiana's winning, right?
I do.
Okay. Stu, could we call my bookie? Whatever the spread is on Ohio State.
Here we go.
Hammer him. So you're the most stubborn person I've ever met when it comes to sports. No, you live and die by your take, and even when your take is wrong, you get absolutely shredded for it because you stand by it. Who do you think is the biggest challenger to the Chiefs in the AFC?
Right now? Ooh.
Because the other day you said it's not Buffalo, even though Buffalo is the only team.
No, I didn't say it wasn't Buffalo. I said right now the Chiefs are still the team to beat.
Yes.
I didn't say that it didn't go through Buffalo. The biggest challenger.
You still saying the Bengals? Stop. They're 4-7. They haven't beat anybody this year.
I'm sighing because I have to wave the white flag on them.
Yes, because you were wrong.
Well, no, they play them competitive. Look at every game they play is close, and Cincinnati's won more games than they played.
But they're 4-7. Mister, who have you played? Don't rest on the past. You're doing that right now.
And on Sunday, I said the Bengals season's over. At 4-7, the season's over. So, yes, unfortunately,
that take is wrong. Who is the team in the AFC that's the biggest challenger to the Chiefs? Are we serious here?
It has to be Buffalo. I don't believe they can win. Because I don't believe they can win again in a rematch. Because it's all on Josh Allen.
Because you hate Josh Allen.
No. I like Josh Allen.
The problem is you wanted the Bills to trade Josh Allen.
Help around Josh Allen, and that trade had nothing to do with Josh Allen. It had what to do with what's around the team. And I still stand by that.
How would that have
trade.
worked out, by the way, if they traded for Caleb Williams than what they are this year?
Well, I'll say this: Caleb Williams wouldn't have Shane Waldron calling the plays for him in Buffalo. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
Joe Brady looks pretty good.
And you think Caleb Williams with that Bills roster would be able to?
Well, in 2024, no. I'm not saying that. Again, but you're building for the future. You're resetting right now.
I love you. Stupid. We all have stupid.
You're resetting your organization. No, I stand by it.
Second or third best quarterback in football.
I see Bills fans out quote tweeting that recently.
They should
trying
drag
to dunk on it. They're missing the point. It's not a 2024 take. It's the
point was stupid.
2029 take.
Yes, and Josh Allen's still going to be elite.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about him, but it's the team around him. If you don't get a good team around him, what's the point of having a great quarterback?
And then I know you are not a fan. You are not a believer of Coach Prime and the Buffaloes. And you have infiltrated my brain on this because I said when we worked together every day that Coach Prime should get an SEC job before he went to Colorado. Year one, I thought they'd win 4 wins. They got to 4 wins. It was a disappointing season, though, after they started off 3-0. This year, I thought they were individuals, and I thought they would only get 5 wins and just miss out on a bowl game. They're winning the Big 12. Colorado is winning the Big 12. That is a team right now. Where are you at on Colorado, Mr.
I am ready to say they are in the Big 12 title.
Oh, come on. I'm
not ready to say because, Arizona State's a great team. They're a hot team. No
Will
one
they
wants to
beat
talk
BYU?
about it. I think they will beat BYU this weekend.
Is that because you're picking against BYU because they have a Jewish quarterback and
Not
I'm
at all.
Jewish?
I love the BYU.
Just making sure.
I've been defending BYU on this show and everywhere.
I'm just making sure.
Jeez,
Maybe I'll give you my
accusing me of being anti-Semitic.
Maybe I'll give you my 10 Commandments chain that I have, and maybe you could then walk around the studio just to make sure that people know that you like us Jewish people.
I've tried to defend them, and they every week are playing these crappy games. They're playing down, need some luck, and then just get owned at home by Kansas.
Kind of like
By the
Penn
way,
State.
tricky game, Colorado this week. I think they win.
Notice how he doesn't acknowledge that comment.
Kansas is the best 4-win team in the country. They're hot.
Who cares? I knew they were going to beat BYU last week because I looked at the spread.
Spread is close. 2.5 points, Colorado on the road. You think they'd be favored by much more? Vegas knows, rightfully so. I think Colorado wins. Close game, though.
Okay. All righty. Any other crazy takes that you have?
I mean, considering I think these are all sane and rational. No take in the crazy department.
If Nick Saban is coaching the Jets next year,
okay.
I said this earlier, I'll get a tattoo on my ass of Nick Saban and Miss Terry.
What about me?
No.
Us three. I'm the one who talked about it.
No.
I'll be the one who, if that happens, it's because I spoke into existence. Because Woody Johnson's listening to this network and he said, you know what, that's a good idea. He seems to take a lot of advice from other people.
All righty. We'll take a timeout. Tom in Pennsylvania, I know you're holding patiently. I'll get to you on the other side. He's crazy. Take Hickey. I'm Zach Gelb. We're coming on back in 5 minutes. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of Shields Guards and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5 minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
What a wild, eventful day this has been. It's been a fun show. You know, I love Kevin Carter, and I was catching up with him the other day. He goes, I live in the city during football season. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I knew you were here. I thought you slept Mondays and Fridays with CBS. And he goes, I want to come on in. So I said, how about Wednesday? I'll work for you good? Wednesday at 4? And then I realized, we usually have Hickey on Wednesday at 4. And then Kevin Carter, who was sensational in studio for 2 segments. He was praising Indiana big time. I knew he was praising up Indiana. I thought he was going to pick Ohio State to win. He picked Indiana to win the game outright, which was very, very impressive. And even though I think Ohio State's going to win. And then we were talking about the SEC. He was giving a lot of love to Boise as well with Ashton Genty. Gave us a national championship game prediction of Oregon up against Alabama. So it was a very good conversation. But then at the end, and I know he may listen to the show from time to time, and he knows I'm not a big Penn State guy. I love their AD, Pat Kraft. Pat Kraft's sensational. I'm not a James Franklin guy. But I like tight end Warren. Aller, he's not a great quarterback, but I could root for him. I know someone that grew up in the area in Ohio where Drew Aller did grow up. It's either Medina or Medina. I never know how to say it, if I'm going to be honest with you. But then he just starts trashing Penn State, Kevin Carter. Trashing Penn State. And then I allowed Hickey and Kevin Carter to go at it in the newsroom. And they were fighting for 20, 25 minutes. We'll get some video up on that. We were able to get like a little snippet. Wasn't the best part, but I said, I got to start recording this. I thought they were going to punch one another. I thought Hickey actually, Stu, was going to throw the first punch. Kevin Carter would not have thrown the first punch. He's a big dude, but he's a nice guy. Hickey, he looked incensed. He looked outraged. And then Hickey comes on and, Hickey does what Hickey does. Crazy takes. Did you see how painful that was for Hickey to just acknowledge that the Bills are the second best team in the AFC? Like if you want to say Kansas City over Buffalo, we'll get take 5 in a bit. Okay, that's fine, even though Buffalo just beat them. But how, I was like, who's the second best team in the AFC? And you just saw him be as white as a ghost because he knew he thinks it's Buffalo, but he just didn't want to say it's Buffalo. The teams, Stu, that he really has a vendetta against are crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's like you're asking him some math equation.
Right.
The way he looked at you and paused and couldn't answer it. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
And even when he was praising Colorado, he goes, I'll say this, Colorado will be in the Big 12 championship game, but they may lose to Kansas, and I'm not ready to say they're going to win it all, in terms of the Big 12. It's just, okay. I sense, did you sense that from him? He wanted to say that Colorado was going to win it all in the Big 12, but he just couldn't say it because whatever reasons he hates Colorado.
Yes, definitely. It definitely felt like that.
So this has just been a wild show. 855-212-4227. Tom in Pennsylvania has been holding patiently. He wanted to talk about something that Kevin Carter said. Tom, appreciate you holding. Sorry it took us so long to get to you. How are you?
Oh, hey, no problem. I'm doing good. It's really great to talk to you. You're my favorite host.
I appreciate that.
And whatever programmer put you and JR back to back is a genius. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
I did want to speak on something that Kevin Carter was talking about, because I got to call him out for a little BS. I mean, okay, he may have a PhD in football and he's smooth and knows the names and the stats, but he's going on and on about Indiana and how they play together as a great offense and they play together as a team defense and all the speed they have. But then on the other hand, he's saying they're playing the worst 5 teams in the Big Ten. So yeah, they're going to look faster. They're going to look a little bit better stat wise and all that. And so I think when they come up against Ohio State and play a real team, they're going to have some issues.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like how he was talking on both sides of that.
So it's going to be a fascinating matchup because this is the real test. And I'm not even saying Indiana needs to win to really impress people. I did kind of agree with him. You got to keep it within a touchdown or less to still get a lot of praise, because I've been in that spot. Not that it's the same, but when I was at Temple, people were questioning what Temple could be, and then they play Notre Dame when Notre Dame was here for College Game Day, and Temple lost by less than a touchdown. So I understand that part of it, but yeah, there's no doubt about it. This is their first big test. I don't know, Tom. I know everyone's going to walk into this game saying there's a lot more on the line for Indiana, and it's the easy argument. I think there's more on the line for Ohio State, because Ohio State had that bad loss at the end. I know that they played Oregon, and Oregon's the best team in the country right now, but they were just terrible at the end of that game. You beat Penn State, who, let's be real, Penn State is not a great football team. And what Franklin and Kotelnicki did at the goal line was just an absolute disgrace. But if you lose this game and you're Ohio State, it just screams fraud. And that's where they've been the last 3 years. So I'm a little more fascinated, actually, by Ohio State in this game than I am Indiana, because I know Indiana's good. I don't think Indiana's great.
Yeah, I think competition makes the team, and that's where Ohio State's going to come through.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be a fun one, I think, coming up on Saturday. How fun? We'll have to wait and see. Appreciate the kind words, Tom. Thanks for holding, and thanks for calling in. Hey, Stu, real quickly, because I know I got to get to Take 5 on the other side, and we got to get an update in with Ack. There was a report out there, and it's been refuted, but Schefter had it, that Ray Lewis was being targeted by FAU to be their next head football coach. And some people have since said that's not the case. He's not a candidate for the job. So I asked you, Stu, I'll give you my 3 former players that I would like to see become coaches one day. So I had Peyton Manning. It just screams to me to be someone that's a coach. I would love to see Reggie Bush now getting the Heisman back, how electric he was as a player. That would be fun. And then Brian Bosworth, too. I'd just be curious to see how he would present himself on a sideline with how awesome and how tough he used to look way before I was, when he was playing, before I was even a thought, if we're just being honest. But anyway, I asked you to pick 3 players after I gave you my 3. Give me a hint on your first player.
Okay, very polarizing guy, beloved and I guess hated and doubted by some at the same time.
Tim Tebow?
Here you go. That is the one.
So it's funny. I thought about Tebow on mine, and I said, I don't want to go more than one quarterback, so I'll just put Peyton Manning on there. Because also I could just see Manning losing his mind on the sideline and throwing down the tablet and the play calling sheet and all that. Okay? So I got your first one, Timmy Tebow.
All right, second one is kind of like Deion in a sense of like he's a very like excitable guy, kind of played in that same era of college football.
Defensive player?
Yes, sort of. No, more offensive. Speedster.
Ooh. So played both ways?
I believe he was more of an offensive player than a defensive player. I don't think he played defense, but I could be wrong.
Who was it?
Desmond Howard.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, special teams wide receiver. Okay.
Yeah. So I think he'd be kind of interesting.
And also, he says some crazy things.
Yeah.
Every year I feel as if he goes viral, the former Heisman Trophy winner, for just having some crazy college football playoff prediction. So, okay, Desmond.
Third one is another more recent Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
Recent Heisman? Baker Mayfield?
No.
Okay.
Kind of in that same era, though. Little older than Baker. He is now retired. He is not playing the NFL anymore.
Carson Palmer?
No. Kind of.
Matt Leinart?
No.
Huh.
Dealt with injuries in the NFL. I think he would have been a better NFL player if he didn't have a good amount of injuries.
Vince Young?
No.
Oh, no, he didn't win the Heisman.
He did. No, you're right.
He didn't. He won the national championship. Dealt with injury. Sam Bradford?
No, he played in Texas for not the big Texas school. One of the smaller Texas schools. Very dynamic.
Johnny Manziel?
No, more. That's a good one.
Oh, Johnny Manziel.
Manziel, actually, I kind of like Manziel
violation
more
in
than
the
my
world,
pick.
but who is it?
It is RG3.
Oh, duh. I talked to RG3 a decent amount. Obviously at his time with Baylor. Yeah, with the podcasting and everything.
Yeah, I just think he's smart.
And I love RG3, but he's quirky.
He's quirky, but I've been very impressed by him with his ESPN days and even since then with his podcasting. Yeah.
Okay. So you had Desmond Howard, but have never thought that. Tebow I would have put on my list, and I contemplated it. And RG3 that's a good outside the box kind of one. I think I guessed almost every Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
It's 2000.
And then it's the guy that I'm actually friends with. Like, I've gone out and went to Super Bowl parties with. And like, I don't even mention him. When he sees that clip, he's going to be like, man, you're no longer my guy anymore. Don't talk to me. Lose my number. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do Take 5 Wednesday next. And Hickey is not going to like my Take 5 list, if I'm just being honest. Well, SEC teams, if I may say so myself. Update time first. Here is Yak Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Former Giant Eli Manning is among 25 semifinalists for the Football Hall of Fame. 4 to 8 of the members on this list will ultimately be elected. Others in that group of 25 include Vince Wilfork, Terrell Suggs, and Antonio Gates. The Cavaliers will try to bounce back from their first loss of the year, now at 15-1 after falling in Boston last night. They'll host the Pelicans, who at 4-15 have as many losses as the Cavaliers have wins. The Warriors are also coming off a loss, but still sit atop the Western Conference with the Thunder. They're at 10-3, and the Hawks are in town tonight, and Golden State may have some guys that might be a little more gray these days, but Steph Curry still playing at a high level and leading by example.
The work ethic and the commitment to the daily process of trying to get better. I want people to kind of keep up with my speed there, but you got to do it in your own way, what works for you.
The Thunder are 11-4 and host the Blazers, while the Clippers the Magic have quietly won 6 in a row and face the Clippers in L.A. The Cy Young Award winners will be announced tonight. The Tigers' Tarek Skubal, the American League frontrunner, also celebrating a birthday today. He's joined by the Guardians' Emmanuel Clase and the Royals' Seth Lugo. The Braves' Chris Sale's 18 wins puts him at the top of the list in the National League, along with the Phillies' Zach Wheeler and Rookie of the Year Paul Skeens. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God. We're back
All right,
again.
it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Another question from Bella B in Calgary. She's like the Jaromir Jagr of the Ask the Pros type of questions. Seriously. If you were to invest into a professional sports team, which league would it be in? Thanks. Bella B in Calgary, hashtag Ask the Pros, hashtag INF Sportsnet. You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for your car care needs to get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stu, I have my answer. What's your answer to this question? If you were to invest into a professional sports team, which league would it be in?
I feel like NFL's the most profitable. I would probably do NFL.
So that's what I first thought. But as it did go on, like, I would want to invest and just enjoy the show. I could see myself becoming a meddling owner in the NFL because I know a lot about the NFL. When it comes to the UFC, I like the UFC, but I don't really know what makes a good fight or who should fight whom. And just having a walkout with Dana White would be pretty badass if I'm being honest. So I would, I guess it's not investing in a team here, it'd just be investing in a league. I would say the UFC. And maybe I could invest in a fighter. Imagine if I was in Tom Aspinall's corner all the time. That'd be pretty cool. You walk out with Tom Aspinall, and you're just funding him. Anyway, let's get to a little Take 5 Wednesday to end the show.
As the dust settles from last week's games, it's time to look at which teams are rising and which are falling.
And there's an interception.
Zach ranks his top 5 NFL and college football teams on this week's edition of Take 5, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, moving on up. Moving on up. Moving on up. I am going to move up Ole Miss, the Rebels. They are in at number 5. Huge win 2 weeks ago up against Georgia. Spanked them around. You know, I know they lost up against LSU in overtime, but that win was so impressive up against Georgia. I needed someone to slide out, and then we could move them up. That was Ole Miss this week. They are in at number 5. In at number 4, I understand they lost to Georgia, and their competition has not been great this year, but I like how I think Texas is just a consistent, good football team. I think they're just well-rounded, so I put Texas in at 4. In at number 3, I think they're the most dangerous team in college football. Now, they have an incredibly high ceiling, but the floor, it could get really ugly, and you can hit the floor very quickly, but it is actually Alabama. You know, defense has played well the last 3 weeks, last 4 weeks. You look at the offense. In that game up against LSU, Milroe was awesome. Milroe was awesome in the first half up against Georgia. He was terrible up against Tennessee. But if they could put it all together like they have been lately, I put Alabama in at 3. 2, it's Ohio State. They got a big one this weekend up against Indiana. And then in at number 1, the best team in the country right now. I don't know if they're going to win it all, but it's the Ducks of Oregon. Stu, speak now, forever hold your peace.
All right, what about the 10-0 Indiana Hoosiers?
Got to see what they do up against their best competition of the season up against Ohio State. I'll tell you this. This would be a guarantee. Indiana, if they win that game, they will absolutely not only be in the top 5, they'd probably be in the top 4 next week, if I'm being honest.
All right, what about Georgia after their nice bounce back against Tennessee?
I really thought about Georgia. But then I had Ole Miss in at 5. Ole Miss dismantled Georgia. So I didn't feel like it was right to take out Ole Miss. And, you know, I know this could sound hypocritical because I don't have Indiana in. Texas, I know they lost to Georgia, but they only have 1 loss on the season. So I kept Georgia out just because of that loss to Ole Miss. But I think, as I said, after even the loss to Ole Miss, Georgia's still going to make the college football playoff.
All right, what about Penn State, who the committee thinks is the 4th best team?
Their best victory on the season's USC. Is that what we're doing here? Like, they lost to Ohio State in their biggest game of the season. So I think they're a good team. They're not a great team. Like, if Georgia played Penn State as they projected in the college football playoff rankings the other night, Georgia would smack Penn State.
And then last but not least, Notre Dame, who has not lost since Northern Illinois.
Isn't it funny? The Northern Illinois loss still has totally evaporated.
Yeah.
They keep on moving on up. And Notre Dame has had some moments then, but nothing like spectacular, unbelievable. And here they are. This is designed. The way that you don't get a 5th SEC team in or a 5th Big Ten team is Notre Dame gets a spot. And as long as Notre Dame has a loss or 2 on the season, once they lost to Northern Illinois, they couldn't lose another game. But in most years, if they're a 1 or 2 loss team, they're going to be in the college football playoff. All righty, so Ole Miss 5, Texas 4, Alabama 3, Ohio State 2, Oregon 1. In at number 5, welcome to the top 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers. You beat the Commanders and you beat the Ravens. They've held the last 2 top 5, the last 5th spots the last 2 weeks. I got to finally put the Steelers in there. Even though I still have questions to get it done in the postseason, your record is what you says you are when it comes to the NFL, so I put the Steelers in at 5. 4, welcome back to the circle of trust, the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, I know the coach could still be a little bit concerning, and I know, right, you could look at the opponents and all that, but they keep on kicking ass and taking names, and they beat a good Commanders team on Thursday night, so I put them in at number 4. In at number 3, at one point they were 1, then they fell down to 2. Now I put them down at 3. They should have lost to the Broncos. They didn't. Should have had another loss in there as well. They had some luck, and then they played the Buffalo Bills, and the luck ran out. Now, can the Chiefs still get to the Super Bowl? Absolutely. But this is week by week. And after last week and the Bills beat the Chiefs, I'll put the Kansas City Chiefs down at 3. Buffalo is in at 2. And I know you could say, hey, it was up against the Jaguars, but the Lions have just been beating the snot out of each and every team they play, only having 1 loss on the season. So I put the Steelers in at 5, the Eagles in at 4, the Chiefs in at 3, the Bills in at 2, and the Detroit Lions. Fight off those kneecaps, Dan Campbell, in a number 1. Stu, speak now, forever hold your peace.
What about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens?
Too many moments. They lost to the Raiders. And then you're playing the Steelers, and your offense just crapped the bed. And that defense is questionable. So I question them in big spots, and you saw that up against the Steelers, so that's why they're out.
What about the Chargers and their 4-game winning streak?
Thought about it. First half was really good. Second half looked a little bit like the old Chargers, but then they found the way to win the game. Really good team, not an elite team. They don't make the top 5 yet.
All right, what about the 8-2 Vikings?
You know what? That's a team that I think they could be dangerous because they have a really good defense, and they've soured a little bit as of late. Even their wins haven't been pretty up against Tennessee and Jacksonville, Indianapolis. They lost those 2 games to the Lions and the Rams. When they go through their next tough stretch, and in terms of going up against good teams, I wonder if they could soar again, because I think a lot of people have written them off. But those losses up against Detroit and the Rams just kind of show me they're not an elite team. They're just a good team.
And then what about the Packers after squeaking by the Bears?
You just said it. They had to squeak past the Bears. And there should have been a penalty flag on that play, but I don't want to talk about it because none of it sounds like Matt Eberflus, so I'm going to be honest. They're a good team. Good team. Very good team. Love makes too many mistakes, though, which I think is a problem. I like a quarterback that takes risks. But I think you want to be a little bit more like Aaron Rodgers in terms of playing than Brett Favre. And I think he reminds me a little bit more like Brett Favre. Hey, go to the Hall of Fame, you win a Super Bowl. That's pretty damn good, though. Fun show today. Samson, thank you. Stu, thank you. Kevin Carter, thank you. Hickey, thank you. And most importantly, thank each and every one of you for listening and watching. We'll be back tomorrow. It's a Football Friday on a Thursday because I'm out on Friday. So we'll do a Football Friday on a Thursday tomorrow. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.